Hey guys, good morning. Yoo-hoo. Today we got a special stream. My information critical mass is just like over the limit right now. I've been mentally preparing myself for this one, and last night took me like 2 hours to fall asleep just thinking about it. Got a new Jibber video. Basically, it's where we just talk about the game, talk about things. Doesn't have to be always Warhammer related, but usually is. And since we are pretty much in the last month of Warhammer 2, as in we probably might not even play it ever again. Who knows? Hoping for the best. If everything is well with the Warhammer 3, we are probably safe to just remove Warhammer 2 from our computers. But yeah, you never know. You never know. Currently, there are great minds. Critics are playing the game, and we'll hear about it in a few weeks, no doubt. What I think. Early access, who knows what they're gonna say, but they're probably gonna give us an idea, at least that when it spreads over Reddit, how messed up the game is, if the AI is as bad as it looked in some of those videos. So I think this is the perfect time to talk about some things. Before we get into the topic, I want to say this is Jibber. If you don't know what Jibber is, just Google it. Define Jibber. I don't prepare really anything, script anything, or write something ahead of time. Just mentally preparing for some time, and when I feel like it hits critical mass, we talk about things. So this is going to be like personal experience and opinions from somebody who has played I think over 300 campaigns in the Warhammer series, 6,600 hours in Warhammer 2, and 2,800 hours in Warhammer 1. So combined over 9,000 hours. Strictly campaign experience and highest difficulty. This one I titled Personal Faction Summary. We're gonna talk about favorite things about the races, least favorite things about the races, favorite faction or the Legend Lord from it, the least favorite one, favorite unit, least favorite unit, and this is a really hard one. To pick one thing to change. This is like pick one thing to change is like, just when I think about it, some factions, just my mind explodes. Since the Warhammer 2 is at the end, we are, if I feel like it's time to make this Jibber. Of course, as usual, these Jibber, since they are not really prepared, scripted, we're gonna miss something. And if anybody thinks we missed something, either on Twitch or YouTube, you guys always can tell me or write it in the comments, and we can talk more about it. So, without further waiting, so we have various groups of factions here. There are 69 Legend Lords, and if I'm not mistaken, 65 factions. Faction, I guess, you call it the race. We call it the race attributes. So it's like a race of factions. You can see them in, their own categories. So we're gonna talk about this today. This is also going to be the only video today. We're not going to be playing any of the Battle Legion, which will continue the next time. So, lots of talking, no gameplay, but sometimes, talking is just all you need. You don't have to, have more vampire gameplay. It'll continue next time. So, let's begin with the High Elves. I don't really want to talk about Eye of the Vortex, because I don't like the Eye of the Vortex, and I think it's damaging to the Mortal Empires, and I think it's bad for the game. So we're talking strictly about Mortal Empires here. So High Elves. It's a very big faction in the game. probably one of the biggest and most popular factions of the Warhammer 2. I really enjoy the High Elves. I love all the elves, and the High Elves are my favorite. Favorite thing about them. Favorite thing about the High Elves. Their models are pretty. They're pleasant to the eye, which means you can create some nice formations. Their faction gives you the feel of a professional army, like a professional elven army. If you're gonna need to get an image of it, if you're not familiar, if you've seen the third Hobbit movie, when the elf army arrived, when they have all that formation, all close, it looks like just one big block of infantry. Well, this is what I'm talking about. And Warhammer 2 didn't give us the option, while Warhammer 3 will apparently give us the option to save formations. All these formations might not be always healthy against magic, explosions, bombardment, artillery. I think they're very cool and pretty to look at, and I don't think anybody does these formations as good as the elves and the High Elves especially. So this is probably one of my favorite things about the High Elves, and if I have to pick one thing, it's this. I can go into more detail, how well the faction is made, their lords, their heroes, their units, technologies, mechanics. It's just my favorite thing about them is just how pretty they are and how well you can make these formations. I guess being High Elves, this kind of makes sense, right, guys? This is probably, well done by the developers. They really nailed it when it comes to the High Elves, I think. I had no idea about the High Elves before Warhammer 2, but, looking at things and, High Elves, think they're better than most other people, I think it makes a lot of sense. Least favorite thing about the High Elves is... in the game, I can't really, considering the latest state of the game, I really can't say anything from the game. But there's this thing that's been piling up since release of the Queen and the Crown DLC, when they released Alariel and Helbron. It's some kind of public view and opinion of them, and it made it a little bit, I don't know, felt a little bit less satisfying what the people, were talking about High Elves and thinking of them, especially on the exploit cheese side of things and, how they're supposed to be played. Since this is a archer-heavy faction, but, the archers know all they have, but, sometimes people have to get this view skewed, regarding the state of the game, the range meta, the AI balance, and, what's easier, what's harder. So I have to say my least favorite thing about them is some of the public opinion about them. And I don't know, I'm going to go into much detail about this, but most people who watch this channel know what I'm talking about. So, not going to really go into in-depth about this one, but I think most will get what I'm saying here. Favorite faction of the High Elves or Legendary Lord. Faction or Legendary Lord should be the same thing, should be one and the same thing. When we're talking about favorite faction, favorite Legendary Lord, it's basically starting with that Lord, on turn 1, playing the start game, first 3 turns, and the faction effects, which change the experience of the game. I have to say, Teclis is my favorite. As a faction, there's not really much. Not really much, really. But Teclis, since day 1, has been incredible. It's everything I want from a wizard, and he feels powerful. At the time, he felt like, if you were skilled, there was no limits to his power. Literally no limits. Click the right buttons, you win. Over time, the Teclis has become stupid overpowered. He's went from an amazing wizard to a miracle worker. Literally just beyond overpowered. When they added his Phoenix, it's feel like it just cracks somewhere, on the balance have cracked. So nobody came as close as Teclis. Teclis is just incredible. One of my favorite lords. I wish I played him more, but partially some of the public opinions have made High Elves a little bit less for me. As a streamer, I have to play a variety of factions. Is expected of me. I wish I played Teclis more. We'll play Teclis more, I guess, in Warhammer 3. So this is like no contender here. Teclis and Order of Masters is my favorite from the High Elves. My least favorite is easy Alariel Radiant of Avalon. And this is not an easy choice because she's a very good lord. She comes with her own flavor. It is a problem with developers and their view on balance things or lack of it. I think the High Elves are pretty much near perfect until they started releasing more content for them. And when Alariel got released, they released this stupid overpowered unit, which they don't even need, called the Sisters of Avalon. Just think of it like an elite archer that can also act as a melee combatant as well. Has a little bit of everything, but the most absurd thing it has extremely high armor-piercing missile damage, which over triple the damage of their usual archers at a time, which would load and Seaguard. So it upset the balance a bit. It would have been acceptable if these units were limited to this faction, or if they were limited per building, but even to this day, Sisters of Avalon can... Okay, let's scratch that. When this faction was released, every single girl, woman, she-elf, whatever you want to call it, on Ultuan has become a Sister of Avalon. That's how stupid it is. The sisters have replaced literally the archers. Lot and Seaguard, I feel like, should have been a core unit of the High Elves, but it was just a serious power creep without any addressing of the balance. If Sister of Avalon were available in like 4 to 8 in the whole faction, they would have all been super strong. Even one per army can use to be sniped couple elite units, but the fact you can just build this building and recruit these units without any limits, restrictions or balance is the worst thing that has happened to the High Elves in Warhammer 2. Another point, Lot and Seaguard has upkeep of around 212 if I'm mistaken. Sister of Avalon, elite soldier, that is not you like your... Think about like the Lot and Seaguard, like your standard Marines or your armies, your foot soldier. Meanwhile, Sister of Avalon is supposed to be an elite unit, which is not available in massive numbers. And you can just recruit it. Click, 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 click. Moshi, get even a whole army, every single army of them. No limits, no restriction. They have the same upkeep as the Lot and Seaguard. Somebody at the Creator Assembly has really done fucked up this, and it has diminished my enjoyment and the balance of the High Elves. It's just made it to the stupid levels. Of course, you're saying like, you don't have to use Sister Avalon, you have an option to use them, but that is just a lazy way to, tell, for developers who don't have to care about the balance or, do things right in the game. This unit should have probably been available only to the Avalon in large amounts, maybe 2 per building, while to the regular High Elves should have been available 1 per building as an elite archer. Even if you still have just 1 per army, it is a game changer, and their upkeep should have been like tripled. Heck, even more expensive than a Star Dragon if you ask me. So yeah, big miss with this unit from developers, and it's kind of sad they left it in the game after all these years. 4 years later nearly. So this is my least favorite faction, and about in the High Elves. Avalon, because of this. Have nothing against Alariel, but yeah, it was not well made. we could talk about this more. I could talk about this probably for hours, but it made the Dark Elves a little bit less when the Sister Avalon were released. High Elves had range, steady damage, while the Dark Elves had less range and very high damage. And this unit kind of like, you know, made the Dark Elves less as well. So my favorite unit in the High Elves, probably you guys gonna be surprised, but some of you who have you know, watched me since the start all probably know, is the Swordmasters of Hoet.
There is no limit.
It's an elite sword unit which just is made to delete infantry. It's one of those infantry overkill units, and it's just very satisfying to look them fight. They have incredible models, and they're supposed to be some of the best fighters in the world, if not the best fighters of the High Elves. This is my favorite unit. Can't really say much about them. Some of the range units and the monsters make them feel worse, because like I said, always say there's a million ways to kill infantry. You need to create armies specifically to get the good value out of them, otherwise they're kind of pointless in the armies. I just wish elite units were limited, restricted, and more powerful. And you know, when you can spam you know, a variety of units, some of these units feel like less. You know, it's kind of like 3D printer makes them. It's like they're trained in a day, and that's, you know, another big problem with the game, but never been addressed. Probably never gonna be, because the convenience and laziness of devs don't have to put much work into campaign mechanics. So that's pretty straightforward. Swordmaster, my favorite unit. My least favorite unit is, you know, I was thinking about the Great Eagle, but thinking long and hard on this over time, is easily Sisters of the Avalon. And for obvious reasons, we just talked about it. Sisters of Avalon was an unnecessary unit to the game, and terribly balanced and terribly implemented. Shame on the devs on their laziness and lack of balance. So, okay.
We can achieve much together.
One thing to change about the High Elves. That's a really tough one. That's a really tough one. It's you know, I said I you know, would say to change one thing about them, but this is a really tough one. I have really nothing here. Really nothing here right now. You know, other than complaining about the balance of the armies and the superiority of the range. This is a faction which should have the imbalance of this. You know, faction that race that should, if anybody should have superior archers and armies with more archers. This is the one. This is the one. I guess nothing really comes to mind, but you know, I just wish some of the elite units would be more restricted and more stronger, while we had more foot soldier armies with spearmen, archers, Silvern Guard, Lorenzi Guard, and not prevalent with Phoenix Guard, Sisters of Avalon, dragons, and such. I would like to feel restriction on these elite units. You know, if every army has Sisters of Avalon, it feels like just a standard print units that is just being spammed. I can't really, nothing really comes to mind regarding this. When we talk about these things, I could go talk about the range meta. I could go talk about confederations. I could go talk about AI balance. I could talk about you know, which ones are overtuned, which ones, you know, need work. But I feel like you know, just a little bit polish regarding unit restrictions, just overall unit balance. You know, it seems off. Okay, I think that's it for the high elves. If I remember what I wanted to say there, I think I had something else different at the time. We'll get back to it. So let's go to the high elves. Let's go to the high elves. I mean to Lizardmen, which is the second race here. And oh boy, Lizardmen. I had such joy playing Last Defenders in early access of Warhammer 2 when we had just just a couple lords. Felt something special. Little did we know at the time that the battle difficulty was bugged, and we were actually playing on normal, while the battle difficulty was set on very hard. So very hard was normal, and normal was very hard. I guess you can screw up some time to time, but they left this in the game for over 4 months, 5 months, I think nearly 5 months. So the unit seemed at the time super powerful in melee. It felt like a change. It felt like a change, almost like a balance. But it was a thing of a battle difficulty. The thing I like about the Lizardmen the most is they felt like what Greenskins were supposed to be originally. Back in the day, we just had literally Greenskins and the Norska and Chaos as the melee grinders, while the vampire counts, were like in the middle because they needed really magic, to compete. They didn't have enough attack or the ability of their units compared to the some other stuff. So my favorite thing about the Lizardmen is just a melee grinder faction that has a variety of melee units, and it feels like refreshing when your army does not have to rely on some range damage or devastating spells to cause most of the damage or win. I enjoy melee grinding, and the Lizardmen do it very good. They're no longer the strongest melee faction, but they're still up there with among the top. My least favorite thing about the Lizardmen is the lackluster of their mechanics. Geomantic web is one of the laziest shit they have done. It's almost like we are back in 2006, 2010, 2 decades ago, where they choose like a slightly different between factions because you're playing humans in historical wars. Geomantic web gives you a way to get stronger commandments. You do not get stronger commandments. No. You get decent commandments. Lizardmen have their own commandments. But if you want to unlock the Geomantic web to boost the commandments, you have to build a building that has to be upgraded to tier 4 and tier 5. So it comes over time. The moment this starts to provide any significant bonus from the base one, which is not significant if you ask me, at that point it doesn't really matter anymore. It is like researching a technology on turn 1 that gives you plus 1% to income, which doesn't do anything on turn 1, like they've done in the past. Lots of stuff in the previous Total Wars, like Shogun 2, like Rome 2. Those initial technologies are completely useless, don't do anything in the start of the campaign, but later in the campaign they actually do too much, support the snowballing. So basically, Geomantic web does nothing for the Lizardmen. That's like saying harsh, but it does nothing. And when it starts to do something, you forget it even exists. Geomantic web should probably be extended as a mechanic, and if the provinces are extended by Geomantic web, it should provide various bonuses in those provinces, not just via commandments. Commandments is just scratching the surface. There should be in-depth more stuff, anti-corruption, local movement, local fighting bonuses, ward save, vision, the whole package. If a Geomantic web is turned on, meaning the capitals are connected, this whole area should have 3 different tiers of strength for these bonuses. And everybody in these areas should have massive bonuses on the armies, campaign quality of life, and further bonuses, you know, and not just attach the commandments. Just buffing commandments by clinking a geomantic web is just lazy. It's lazy and non-existent. It doesn't affect this faction in any way, even if you're under an illusion that it might provide you some kind of bonus at a time. This is one of their mechanics. The second mechanic, which is no doubt one of the worst Warhammer 2 mechanics in the game, special spawnings. It's basically you get these events with randomly rolled units which you have no control over, sometimes are not even possible or convenient to do. Some of the units are better than the others, some of the units literally only exist for multiplayer, and the game is still could give you 3 of them in a row. I had a campaign where literally we gotten just skin skirmishers, blessed skin skirmisher. What fucking sick bastard at Creative Assembly has created blessed skin skirmishers? It's sickening, it's disgusting, and it makes me want to throw up. So their mechanics suck. We expected rework, but we did not get it. Maybe in Warhammer 3. This is a good base. We could talk in depth what can be done about this, but like I said, it's a good base for rework, and I don't think it will require much work. It just requires, you know, a guy or two that's not a drone, a janitor, or a temporary worker that's going to work in another company next month that just cares. Like that guy that is very enthusiastic, like discussion level of enthusiastic, he could probably sort it out. So this is my least favorite about them. Their mechanics are lackluster. We went into detail why. We could talk about this for a while, but with this video should not be more than a few hours, right? Favorite faction of the Lizardmen is favorite faction. It's kind of tough one because I hate and love Ghost of Fahoax and Oxyotl. I think is a fun mechanic, which, you know, just was terribly, you know, balanced initially, but, you know, if you play a long campaign, it doesn't matter. My favorite faction is Last Defenders. I really like the area of the map they're in. Their faction effects makes for cheap armies, and the Lord is a strong fighter. It's, you know, one of those that just go in and just destroy the enemy. So, Krogar and the Last Defenders. My least favorite faction, which I have never even finished a campaign with them, we did play them a bit, is Spirit of the Jungle. This faction, I feel like they haven't even finished development. A faction that has no economy. It uses a non-existent vassal system in which the vassal can declare war on you, and they say Nakai will come for you while you are playing Nakai the Wanderer. This faction has something going for them. They are different than the other Lizardmen because they're a horde. Not against the hordes. Hordes can be fun because they're different, replayable. But this faction has received minimal effort. It's half-arsed, and I don't think anybody even gave an input when this faction was tested. You know, probably just a bunch of S-leakers. Nobody even cared to make this something else. The vassal system is probably one of the most problematic things about this faction, but this faction was also poorly balanced. Nakai as the Lord is very cool, but he got a really bad faction. Let me just tell you one guy's thing. This guy was released at the same time we got Marcus Wolfhard. Marcus Wolfhard. Empire in Lastria with a set of special heroes, events, mechanics. What went wrong? Did they worked for 9 weeks on this guy and then they worked 1 week on Nakai? It looks like that. All the effort went into Marcus Wolfhard Enhanced Martial Edition, and Nakai got dick, nothing. So this is not only my least favorite faction on the Lizardmen, but it's probably one of the worst in the game. You could try to make it work. You can, you know, one of those biased reasons. But yeah, this faction needs serious balancing. Just think about it. This faction has buildings and technologies which unlock armies. But they forgot to put income on some of their buildings or extra post-battle loot. They give you access to additional armies, but what money? You literally have don't even have money to complete one army, and they just forgot income and post-battle loot and balance. This faction has not been played probably more than 4 turns. Favorite unit of the Lizardmen? I don't want to talk about the blessed units, but you know, kind of have to go with Stegadon. Stegadon, it's a beefy unit, tanky. It bullets infantry. It can pretty much disable their effectiveness of fighting, taking damage, and it has a bolt thrower on his back, which makes it a versatile unit. You could shoot from afar a few times, and you can go into melee, stomp things. Stegadon overall probably is the best units of the Lizardmen because it's versatile and it's just a very tough unit with options. Least favorite unit. Least favorite unit. Skink Skirmishers. Skink Skirmishers. It's like one of those units that exist for just a particular reason, and there is really no point recruiting them in the game. No point. You can just get away without going with melee, and if you think your army is too slow at dealing damage or can be outmaneuvered, just add some pterodons in the army. Talking about regular pterodons. Don't underestimate regular pterodons. Everybody has a regular pterodon? No. So Skirmisher, my least favorite unit. You get some use of it if you're desperate. Heck, if you're desperate, you can get use of everything. But I have to put the Skirmisher as my least favorite unit. One thing to change about the Lizardmen. It's a tough one, but we talked about least favorite things about them, and if I had to change one thing about the Lizardmen, it would be how the special spawnings work. I would create a new mechanic with a special interface. They can take one of those, overtuned Skaven mechanics and interfaces, even the lab, or Grom's Cauldron as a base for the interface, and you get this special resource. Call it whatever you want. Call it seed. And with this seed, you will be able to cook and mix blessed units. This resource would be rare, hard to get, and you would not get unlimited amount of it. So maybe unlocked, at a random chance when you capture a city, or heroic victory, or maybe technology gives you a little bit. But basically you get this seed, and with this seed you decide a unit template. You pick a template like Saurus Warriors, and you can give them a mix of attributes or an ability or two, and just change them how they work. Give them a little bit more health, maybe more damage. Give them, like they get perfect vigor or something else, and you likely batch a unit of this cooked unit. It would be basically similar to Clan Molder's cooking, except with a risk for greedy benefits. This would be a 100% thing, never a failure. You'd always get perfect warriors. So, a mechanic where you basically hatch blessed units, because if Lizardmen are going to get blessed units, I bet you anything you want, they are not going to be blessed Skin Skirmishers. I'm looking at you, CA. Don't fuck with us with the Skin Skirmishers. We want to cook our own units, and we want to decide what they have and what they do. Limit this resource and don't fuck it up. So I'm fully expecting this on Lizardmen rework, but seeing how lazy they are and how many factions there are, they're probably gonna adjust maybe between options. The lazy solution will probably gonna be you're gonna pick between 3 of them, and then you start an event to unlock them. But this thing I would change the special spawning into a proper mechanic, and on this lazy shit they give Lizardmen, that this faction has 7 lords and literally has no mechanics. Literally no mechanics. So, moving from the Lizardmen to the Dark Elves. Dark Elves. I kind of like them for the same thing. I like the High Elves. You know, they're kind of like High Elves, just different. You know, the armies are pretty. You can create nice formations. It's literally the same reason why I like the High Elves. Except I like the High Elves more than I like Dark Elves. I don't think I need to say more about this. I enjoy all the elves, but Dark Elves is my least favorite of the elves. And the same reason I like the High Elves, I like the Dark Elves. Least favorite thing about the Dark Elves. Oh boy. There's like several, but I'm gonna have to go with how their economy works. Their economy is too binary. You basically just get the slaves in a province and you make shit ton of money. It feels like it's an abuse. It feels like it's terribly balanced, which it is, and it's a very lazy system. So slave economy is my least favorite about them. You need it to become a powerful faction. You can't really go without it. But how they went with it, it's just binary, really. It's very lacking, very lacking. It is so binary that most of the players don't really even understand it, how it works. Don't really know how the Dark Elves become powerful until somebody else shows them, somebody who paid attention for 5 minutes. So, and then they learn, and then they spread the same thing. That makes them the High Elves, you know, least favorite thing about them. You know, public opinion. Public opinion. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, except other than public opinion, it's the slave economy. It's not well designed. Favorite faction. Favorite faction is easily Nagrand and Malekith. I like the location, and playing Malekith, I feel like you're playing a proper evil guy, unlike that other evil guy from Warhammer 1. And he feels like terrifying. Even as the AI, he looks pretty strong. So I can't really, you know, not pick him over the other ones. Not only he can fight, but he's a wizard with impressive stats. He gets a dragon. He's has the strongest province as well in this area, and really not much to do here. And then build up and wait for chaos. What is my favorite Dark Elf thing in general? Same as the High Elves. You know, them being elves, formations, how the unit looks like. You know, everything about the faction, how it works. It's just them being elves. You know, just less than the High Elves. My least favorite faction is 1,000 Moors and a cart. His mechanic is actually solid, but Albion is messed up. The Great Ocean is terribly placed and should be split. There is not enough water in the game, and the lack of this is apparent probably with this guy more than anybody else. This guy at the start of the campaign has like 20 factions, and nearly everybody hates you. What options are they? Everybody's just gonna go aggro on you, and they're just gonna attack your shitty island. The Albion sucks. It's, you know, cool idea, cool concept, but it sucks. It has terrible movement between the settlements. The settlements are nothing special, and I feel like the fact the Albion has a sea visual to Ultuan is just terrible design. Terrible design. The fact numerous people have told me, sent me pictures where they're playing a card and they're at war with half of the High Elves, half of the Dark Elves, and the Empire at the same time should tell you things. Of course, some of these things can be, you know, just bad RNG, and some of these things, you know, are just terrible management. But I know I have to just pick this guy as the my least favorite Dark Elf faction. Another thing, you know, this guy is basically, you know, he's basically just Norska. He's basically just Norska, or what Norska, you know, used to be. And he suffers from the same problem as the Norska does. Massive visuals and poor coverage. And you should not have vision over these factions, it's just bad design. What would we have? A favorite unit? My favorite unit is easily the Blade Guard of Nagrand. I am a fan of versatile, heavy / elite infantry, and they look beautiful. Pretty much not much to say about this. It's just, you know, my favorite unit of the Dark Elves. Blade Guard of Nagrand. My least favorite unit is the easily the Witch Elves. Witch Elves feel like the old early Slayers, with just didn't really work with the original Dwarf armies. You know, the Slayers, you know, comparison, the Slayers are just a stronger unit. They have a battle specialty. While the Witch Elf unit is supposed to be like a debuff flanker unit. It doesn't really fit the Dark Elves, and the unit is even squishier than the Slayers. Slayers are basically elite unit, and Witch Elves suck. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about here. This is a regular Slayers. 8600 health on 80 combatants. This is one of the most elite units in the game.
Heed me, we shall eviscerate.
Witch Elves, 6500 health, 100 girls. Even if you find a use for this unit, it's usually probably gonna come from some kind of desperation. The unit has some offensive, but honestly it has no damage. The real damage comes from Murderous Mastery, and we know all how this works. It gets activated when you least need it, most of the time. 9 AP, 10% more damage from the Frenzy, 36 damage. What is this? This is some sad shit. I don't know who to blame for the state of this unit. What, multiplayer? I don't know. This is my least favorite unit of the Witch Elves, and this shit is just ain't right. This is a cool looking unit. But what the fuck are these stats? It's fragile and doesn't do good enough. You got some physical resistance, but you have no health, so the Slayers are way tougher. They're also susceptible to range. They literally get killed by the basic archers. They got Frenzy and Murderous Mastery, and they got Madness of Cain. It's not even minus 10 melee defense, it's minus 10% melee defense. And the Madness of Cain hits. Let's say it hits
I fight for the greater good.
White Lions. White Lions will lose 3 defense. What the fuck? Losing control of the unit is one thing, but look at this debuff. Minus 10%. Why is nobody talking about this? Why is more people talking about this? 20% speed. It's like poison. 10% defense. This is worse poison. Rampage is one thing, but what the fuck is this? This unit is sad. It's making me feel depressed just talking about it. This unit should be way more powerful. Remember what I was talking about? Elite units should be elite units. And what the fuck is this shit? This is like a cannon fodder unit that sometimes performs worse than the Black Ark Crusaders. So yeah, gotta pick this as my least favorite unit of Dark Elves. We could go on about this, but you know, Desperate uses, you know, are one thing, multiplayer is another, but in the campaign this is dog shit. One thing to change about the Dark Elves.
I will have my vengeance.
Well, I feel like, you know, a lot of these evil factions, or factions that do not assemble the Ortide, the game should have a better vassal system. And I don't want to go into much talk about this, but you know, a powerful faction should have another thing in diplomacy, where people hate you, people should also fear you. And when little people fear you, you get a little bit of control. You get a little control over them. And this should be tied into the vassal system. This factor is missing from the world, this factor is missing from diplomacy. In right now, how the game works, factions hate you. You might say they fear you because they have no military, but the main factor, they don't like you. Relations, low public or low relations leads to war. If you're a fucking number one superpower, outnumber factions 100 times. Sometimes, especially if the chaos is not out, a random faction that hates you will declare war on you just because low relations. This game is missing a proper vassal system, which is one of the laziest shit in the last, I don't know, nearly 10 years of Total War. This thing needs rework. It's the same shit as in Rome 2. It's 2022, it looks like we're getting barely any improvements over it. So a vassal system needs rework, and the Dark Elves need a system where, you know, faction fear you. So I think, not this just in Dark Elf category as well, but one thing needs to change with evil factions. This is like the evil faction. One of the biggest warmongers in the world. Like literally their countries are run by slaves. So there has to be some kind of fear factor in diplomacy. There could be a unique mechanic with the Dark Elves, or unique mechanic with any faction that is not assigned to an order tide or order faction. It could be a part of the vassal system, but there should be some kind of fear category where factions fear you. And through this fear, you can subjugate these factions, turn them into your vassals, or something more expanded, like force allies, force cooperators, collaborators against your enemies. This thing is missing from the game, and the evil factions will never really feel evil unless they do something about this. This is not just for the Dark Elves, but like I said, for all the evil factions. I talk about the slave thing, the slave economy, and the least favorite thing. Could have also mentioned the slave economy here instead. You know, more depth to it, but you know, this is like obvious binary mechanic. So I think as the de facto evil faction in the world, Dark Elves, pretty much in a new category of diplomacy created that suits them and the other evil factions. Okay, moving on to the Skaven. Oh boy.
No one controls.
Skaven. Let me just get some hydration here. I'm getting thirsty here. Skaven is probably the faction that got the most love, race, the most love of all the races in the Warhammer 2. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because they had their own mechanics, and they added a new mechanic, which was, you know, almost perfect. You know, missing a couple of things, the Undercities. And on top of that, they released so many. They released extra guys with unique mechanics, and even they tried to give the other guys mechanics. No, this much cannot be said about the other factions, how much effort they put in the Skaven. So I feel like the Skaven got the most effort of all the Warhammer 2 factions. The thing I like the most about the Skaven is how well they made the faction. It's like one thing playing humans, men, one thing is playing undead, one thing is playing elves. It has to feel like you're playing something different, you know? When Total War started releasing Warhammer, you know, they went from, you know, you were just playing strictly humans strictly humans, and more of things will just feel the same. They might have different equipment, different stats, coming from different nations. But I think how they made the Skaven, feel like red-like. The whole atmosphere, their movements, their units, their speech, it's just a job well done. That's, I think, my favorite thing about the Skaven. They feel unique, and they feel different from the other factions. Least favorite thing about the Skaven. Excuse me. Least favorite thing about the Skaven is the factions have armies tied to 20 units, and the Skaven has 20 units as well. Well, the Skaven outnumber all other factions combined, apparently in the lore. So basically, other than using multiple armies and or spamming summon units, you don't really feel like those numbers in a regular army. This tied together with supply lines, a mechanic which increases the cost of the next army, the more armies you have, makes even Skaven, some of the lowest quality in the game, supposed to have elite armies, full of quality units. Their access to elite units and their lack of access to massive armies, either larger units or larger armies, I think that's the least favorite thing, which brings a problem with with balance. When it comes to the second side of Skaven, which is tied to another problem, which is the range meta. There's numbers. I feel like it should feel like more so than looking at the unit. Then look at a unit of clan rats having 160. And unit of Scan Slave 180, and then you look at the unit of Stormworm, it's still 160. I don't know why people are not complaining about it, talking about it. You got 160 Clan Rats in the unit, and then you have 160 Stormworm in the unit. Does it make any sense to you guys? It makes no sense to me. Turns out to make the Stormworm weaker due to them being susceptible. You guys remember Wind of Death in current campaigns? Each of these units have additional entities adjacent to them. Magic, bombardment, explosions will destroy Stone Vermin just because they have 160. Stone Vermin should not have 160. Look at the unit of Skeleton Warriors versus a unit of Graveguard. 160 versus 120. The number representation of the Skaven, I think it's very poorly done. And the fact that there is a 160 Clan Rats in the unit and 160 Stone Vermin, I think is the primary example. A Stone Vermin should not be more than 120. More than that, I feel like the limit of 20 units per army, it's archaic and don't really fit the game anymore. Especially in a universe like Warhammer, where there are different races, like the Skaven, Greenskins, Bretonnia, Undead. I think some of these factions should have like 5 slots in the army that are strictly reserved for the most numerous units they have in their faction. To say the least, if not to expand upon this. But the numbers literally don't go well with the current systems in the game and with the range meta in the game. They have the worst melee in the game. I don't think anybody else competes for the worst melee in the game than the Skaven. Nothing really comes to mind. By far the worst melee in the game. Favorite faction is it's hard to say. Hard to really decide here. It's like I like Icket Claw and I like Sneech, but One of the probably most favorite things about Eagle Claw is also one of the things that, you know, everybody else likes. The fact that the whole Skaven meta or the playstyle has turned into Eagle Claw's Clan Scryer way of fighting, or everybody has access to weapon teams. Everybody has a weapon X team, and they're super effective. They're way too effective. There is no restrictions, limitations, which there should be on such units. Either upkeep ones or how many you can recruit them. Eagle Claw was pretty much the strongest lord and faction added to the game, did his mechanics, but also didn't do Skaven much favor. They're basically just shown further the worst thing about a Skaven, and they make the best part of the Skaven, you know, just even more. So I can't really pick Eagle Claw here, because it's like a terrible balance factor here, because they had added no restrictions. If you play Clan Morse, if you play Clans Pestilence, you play Clan Rictus, Clan Scryer, Clan Ashen, Clan Molder, it doesn't matter. You get access to Clan Ashen units, get access to weapon teams, get access to plague units, war machines. There's like very poorly done the identity of the factions. Very poorly done. So without any of these restrictions, I can't really pick Eagle Claw, because it's pretty much every Skaven factions unless you force different playstyle. I think the Clan Ashen has to be my pick as my favorite Skaven faction, and I'll tell you why.
Lord of the Ashen.
Skaven Ashen is my favorite faction because it gives you an illusion that there is more depth to the campaign. And this is where we're at in the Warhammer series. Campaign depth is non-existent. And the only way we get some campaign depth with special faction mechanics or race mechanics, and Clan Ashen having one of the best locations in the game, being Skaven, and having a very cool lord with a mechanic that, like I said, gives you an illusion of depth in the campaign. Has to pick them as my favorite. Favorite unit, this hasn't changed since, I think, might have mentioned some things over time, but favorite unit is still Dead Runners. We haven't used much Dead Runners in a long time. Ever since they changed Dead Runners to be a more elite unit, I think they done me a favor with this. This is what should have been happened with the Stormworm as well. The Dead Runners used to have 100 of them. By reducing them to 72, while remaining the same similar health, they turned them into a more elite unit, and they're still my favorite unit from the initial start of the game. Least favorite unit, it's no fucking brain. It's the Red Ogres Rogers, the absolute garbage monsters in the game. We can't even see in them. There you go, Red Ogres. I say this and I say this again. Red Ogres need more entities. There should be a technology if they don't want to imbalance the precious esports. There should be a technology that grants Red Ogres 50% more larger size. So you research a technology, Red Ogres go from 16 to 24. And with this, you get 8 more Ogres, which gives you more HP. As of right now, this does not even feel like a Skaven unit, in my opinion. Even if you go with melee, this is probably one of your worst units to get. Unlike the Death Runners, which is an incredible unit, it can apply some scary pressure or scary damage anywhere really, because they're literally just armor-piercing ninjas that kill on their own, but also can make the Stormworm kill faster, which is what I love about them. The Red Ogres are just the opposite. It's a fast, hard-hitting unit. I don't know in what reality can you call this a hard-hitting unit. Okay, they do have Frenzy. The Frenzy got a little bit buffed. 24 melee attack and 75 weapon strength. You know what is 75 weapon strength? This is like early Warhammer 1 level of damage. Literally non-existent damage. Like when you compare to some of the Warhammer 1 units, maybe we can show one of them. Fortunately, we can't really show here, but it's the creep horrors. Red ogres are just shittier creep horrors. Of course, creep horrors don't do much for the vampires, while the red ogres, you know, provide some different thing from the red ogres. And I think the main issue with red ogres, why they remain shit throughout the trolls. Come on, like, fu here, get the fuck out of here, insulting trolls by comparing with red ogres. So where was I? Yeah. So I feel like the red ogres, it gotta be multiplayer. It gotta be multiplayer. I cannot find any other reason why this unit has remained dog shit. You know, the S-Leakers, White Knights, will compare it to, you know, Streamer. You play on very hard battle difficulty. Bitch, all I'm talking about here is a very hard difficulty, every single unit. And most of them work. This one doesn't. So yeah, 24 melee attack and no damage. They're supposed to be a fast unit that, you know, delivers a charge. They have a solid charge, but they have no damage. What went wrong with this unit, I think, is they tried to give a fast unit to the Skaven, something like a medium shock cavalry, which has little no resilience, or still could survive a little bit more than a unit like this, like let's say Silver Helms. They went too far with the charge. They went too far with the charge, and if this charge was like halved and they had way more attack and a little bit more damage, it might have been a little bit better. But I don't see this unit ever working, or this unit ever being a good unit in the campaign, unless they have a technology or give them more entities. This unit should have 24 entities, and all the health should come with it. So yeah. Another thing, this unit could have some physical resistance, because this is like kinda really poor. Clan Molder has their special mechanic which makes the red ogre a little bit better, but holy shit, even all that effort seems like wasted on red ogres. One thing to change about the Skaven, this could be several things here, but I'm gonna have to go with the Undercities. The Undercity system was released post-release of the Skaven faction, which is a good base, but requires a little bit more work if you ask me. I think there should be a special interface window which gives you the systems of the Undercity, all the buildings, options. I think the Undercity should have 2 more slots. I think the Undercity should have 1 more buildings for discoverability, so you stay hidden better. A building has a bigger gold sink, and most importantly, the Undercity system should be glued with the rest of the Skaven systems. Factions, technologies, heck, even skills, traits, lords. It is not glued with the Skaven faction. It got released after, so I guess they forgot. It's missing on the campaign objectives. The Undercities should be a way to play the game without expanding everywhere, like you are some kind of super military taking over the world. The Skaven, you know, are supposed to work in the shadows. They're not supposed to take over the world. And they basically told you this when their cities were hidden. They were Undercities. But then the cities were no longer hidden, but they're still ruins, and they got it Undercities. But they forgot to connect these Undercities with the rest of the Skaven mechanics. So Undercities should be an important part of the Skaven gameplay. Should be one way to play, and it should be connected with every other thing in the game. Like, for example, technologies, buildings, and victory objectives. that building which I mentioned for discoverability, it could be a 3rd discoverability building, could be a high cost, 6 to 8,000, if like another -4 to -80 discoverability, and also if the city above gets raised, the undercity remains whole. They added more undercity mechanics to the game, like pirate coves and the Silent Sanctums. So this is a good base, just a little bit more, few modifications with some quality of life, and glue with the rest of the Skaven stuff. So that would be the thing I would change with the Skaven. Before we get to the next, did I not say my least favorite faction? Oh, guys, I don't even have to tell you, Clan Rectus. Oh, my bad, Clan Rectus. Okay, let's move on. Before we continue with Vampire Coast factions, I need to get some water, and let's make a short break, about 5 minutes before we continue talking here. We are here, boys. Let's continue. So, we are talking about personal faction summary here. Favorite things about the races, least favorite things about the races. Factions category as well, units 2 and 1 thing to change. So far we talked about the High Elves, Lizardmen, Dark Elves, and the Skaven. Now we are with Vampire Coast. Favorite thing about the Vampire Coast. This was one of the campaign packs, so they tried to put a little bit more effort into it. This faction just like kind of appeared. My favorite thing about them is their faction of undead, or you can call them vampire counts. They're more like undead, right? And their the playstyle, everything comes with the undead. You know, I just like the undead atmosphere, and I just like the idea that you have an undead that's gonna be playing a little bit differently than the other undead. This one has a little more focus on the range, where you have basically where you're supposed to have elite vampires and characters, and commanding an army of zombie pirates, right? What was the called? The Curse of the Vampire Coast was the Vampire Cow and the Zombies, something with the zombies in the name of the faction. So it's not really Vampire Counts, because you know there's a lot of bunch of their crew is the zombies, right? So the atmosphere with the undead, the flavor of the faction, just them being undead. I think this is my favorite thing about them. My least favorite thing about them is their AI. Their AI has been really bad since the release. Hey Mararia, thank you very much. So I wished Vampire Coast as the AI had felt a little bit more scarier. I think this is a perfect faction to make scary. This should not be a faction that creates large empires, unless it's maybe Luther Harkon. Feel like the Luther Harkon could be one to go for a large empire, while the Count Noctilus just terrorizes the coast. Aranessa, you know, lives on the coast, and Souls Darfin just gets her revenge on Ultron. So I think this should be a very terrifying faction that just terrorizes the coast. So by this I mean that they missed a lot of stuff here. The AI is really bad, and sometimes can't even get a proper armies. The auto resolve seems off, and they're known to be seen getting bullied even by the regular peasants, Bretonnian factions. I think this faction should be a terror of the coast, should be scary to get into water, where the Vampire Coast factions are, and they should be some of the strongest in naval battles, coastal battles, whatever you want to call them. They should be able to attack the coast without landing, attack the cities, and you know, sack the cities, build coasts. But there's been a huge miss and really poor effort to make this a working AI faction. It's really terrible. The Luther Harkon sometimes does something, but as the game progresses, he feels like just gets behind. Poop Noctilus is just a horrible faction. Horrible faction. He should be like the terror of the seas. Should be like terrorizing the coasts. Nobody should be safe unless you go to destroy him. Similar for the Arnesa in the part of the Southern Realms and Salostra on the left side. But no, that just feel like there should be something more, but we got nothing really. We got nothing. Terrible AI. You know what it feels like? It feels like you put campaign difficulty to legendary, but you know, for every faction in the game, nearly every faction in the game, you get this legendary difficulty. But against the Vampire Coast, you're playing on normal. That's how it feels like. It's a faction that really doesn't have a right agenda, doesn't have the right capabilities and mechanics to be what they're supposed to be. They should be the terror of the coast, and they should be scary around. They should not discriminate who they attack, always weak coastal settlements. There should be something special about them and not just another empire builder. This is my least favorite thing about them. Favorite faction, I really like both Luther Harkon and Celos Direfin, but I'm gonna go with the Celos Direfin because she feels is more unique. This is one of the cooler lores they put in Warhammer 2, if you ask me. I wished we played it one more time. We'll play it probably in the future again. So favorite faction, Celos Direfin. I like her flavor and she feels unique. So the CM made a good job with this lord. Unlike the least favorite, it is the most cringe shit I ever seen in my life. It's like, you know, I was watching those last 2 episodes of Star Wars, and my bones were cringing, and I was like, if you would just listen carefully, they would screaming Arnesa Soulspite while I was watching Star Wars. So yeah, this faction is a absolute miss. Half-assed, slacking, lazy as shit, shameful display, disgraceful. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it, guys, anymore. It's gonna raise my blood pressure. Let's just move on. My favorite unit about the Vampire Coast is no doubt the Queen Bess. Queen Bess is my favorite unit. It's a big ass mortar. It's powerful, it's satisfying, and it's beautiful to fight battles with. So I don't think you can pick any other unit than Queen Bess. I'm looking at you, cheesers. Stop it. Least favorite unit gotta be the animated Hulks. To this day, I really don't understand the purpose of this unit. I'm not don't play multiplayer, I'm strictly campaign experience, but to this day, still have to find out what is the purpose of this unit. Animated Hulks is some kind of monster infantry, but they have 40 leadership. And what's the thing about the monsters? They just clash with the infantry and they get instantly outnumbered, flanked, attacked in the rear, side, you know, in all the spots where they don't like, and they lose instantly 30 leadership. I have no idea what the hell is the purpose of that unit. The stats are off, and it feels like they tried to create some kind of low tier monster infantry, but it in the campaign it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's the stats are too poor. Stats are too poor, and I have to put in my least favorite unit over the Vampire Coast. One thing to change with the Vampire Coast, I would like to see more unique playstyle with this faction, unrestricted from literally the other people's doing. They should not really be minding business and building empires and, you know, fighting other powers for land. They should be sneaky attacking. Preferably, I would like to see them having stances like while they're sailing, they're invisible, to the enemy until they attack. This could be a stance of Count Noctilus, for example, or stance of Darfin. I would like to see them invisible to the enemy. It's like they're just moving in ambush. Well, they're not ambushing, the enemy does not see them until it's too late. I would like them being hidden while sailing. I would like to see more more pirate playstyle around the coasts attached to more of their technologies, victory objectives. Same thing for the AI. With the exception of Luther Harkon. Luther Harkon should have an objective for Lastria, I've no doubt. But Count Noctilus, even Salostra and Aranesa should have more. They've shown us with the Beastmen, they can modify the stances of every faction to have something different. And I think Luther Harkon should have some kind of different stance to benefit him in Lastria, make the Lastria more bearable. And I think Count Noctilus and even Aranesa, if not just Count Noctilus, should have a stance which makes them hidden at all times when moving in the water. Cause, let me tell you about these guys, a shocker. You probably know already, been watching this channel, but some of you don't. The AI has no fog of war. So let's say this is Galleon's Graveyard, you're sailing, you're thinking you're smart. This is Count Noctilus, maybe you're at war, maybe you're not, maybe you're at war with them. You're sailing around. At the same time, the AI is just moving around. You don't see them, but they see you. And when you get close to target, oh shit, I'm gonna sneak them there. I'm gonna sneak attack! But no, they're waiting you there with 2 armies. So yeah, I really think, if not all of them, some of them should be hidden while sailing. Especially Count Noctilus. Count Noctilus should be the opposite of all other Vampire Coast factions. They have to have some differences. Luther Harkon tried to create an empire in the New World. Count Noctilus literally just power hungry, and he wants to destroy the people. Aranesa Saltspite is not even a vampire, she's not even undead. She's missing pretty much flavor of this faction. Lazy system here. This should be closer to Southern Realms faction than the actual undead faction. Vampire Coast, Celostra Darfin, other than her objective to, go after Ulton, because what happened. Something, attached for every faction to be a little bit different, a little bit more unique. And not just copy pasta with slight differences. It's like, do you really think there's a difference between Luther Harkon and Count Noctilus factions? I don't see it. Luther Harkon starts here, click, click. Noctilus starts here, click, click. There is no incentive for things. Aranesa, we're just gonna make you, kill yourself. While Salostra is just a lot of fun, because, she's Salostra. Okay. What were we? Favorite unit, least favorite unit, one thing to change? Yeah, what things we're done. I just want them more unique with more options. There has to be more variety between mechanics. Developers have been experts are disguising copy pasta from old Total Wars into this Total War as new mechanics without putting minimal effort literally into improving some of these things. And I think it's an absolute nightmare when they have to release something new, something fundamentally new that actually is well thought, instead of just creating a new DLC. So creating some new battlefield with a new playstyle or a new mechanic regarding movement or something like that, it terrifies them. They probably don't even have the people to do such things. These people are probably always working on the next Total War, no doubt. Always next Total War, because, if they put all this shit and ideas, the drones, have limited brain power, but if they put everything in one Total War, what are they gonna put in the next one? Why not just, mix things, cut things, adjust things, make every Total War great, instead of try to make them different. We got Tomb Kings next. This was the first campaign pack, and this is the best DLC in my opinion for Warhammer 2. This was when they released DLC, it made me so happy, so happy. This was a sign. This was a sign of greatness. This is going to be a great game. If you didn't figure it out by that point, this was a massive sign. This would be a great game. They released an amazing culture pack, campaign pack of Tomb Kings. They fixed the battle difficulty bug, and they even did adjustments to the auto resolve, so you would fight more battles. It was like beginning of the greatness. Of course, every time they do big changes, big patches, this is a very time-consuming game. It takes weeks, even for the people who live on this game, if not months, for the casuals to catch up what's wrong with the game. Usually, unless somebody spreads the news like COVID, you're not going to figure out what's wrong with the game. And this works in the favor of the devs. It supports their laziness and their lack of hot fixing, cold fixing, patching the game. By the time you start to understand the problems and experience them, because you read somewhere about them, they're already moving on the next patch. So it should start piling up. You get new content again, you forget about the current issues, and you look at all the new shiny things. And then 3 months later it's the same shit. So as long as they keep updating the game, they don't have to completely fix the problems and the issues. This have been more apparent than ever in the last 2 years of Warhammer 2, where less patches, no hot fixing, no cold fixing, and they even left nearly over 300 bugs in the game, some of them game breaking for various factions. What is game breaking, what is not, it's up to you to decide. But if the game is if something is in the game is preventing you from enjoying something, unless you go play something else, don't play that faction, right? But is this acceptable? I don't think it is. Tomb Kings, when they got the release, they were they signed this game as great. It was like started to turn this game great. We knew it's gonna be great when it got released. And this was like peak Warhammer 2 release of the Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings might have been done still by the original team. They got a lot of effort, not just into the factions, models, music, soundtracks. What about them soundtracks? Holy shit! But they can't create a campaign pack with 4 factions without hitting some bad apples. Some things they have to cut somewhere. It's clear. It's clear where they create a base faction. Like Luther Harkon might have been a base for the face and the base of the Vampire Coast. The whole faction built around him. The other 3 just cut out of it and slightly modified. This is the same shit with the Tomb Kings. Cetra has been made as the main Tomb King faction, while everything is been placed different position, slightly modified, cut, changed. So what do we have? Favorite thing about the Tomb Kings? Just the atmosphere of the faction. Playing undead in the desert with incredible soundtracks, unit models, voiceovers, heck, the necrotects, the units in general, casting of the spells. It makes him, change my pajamas every now and then. Cetra, just listen to the voice acting here.
Henry has only one king. Cetra does not serve. I will all bow before the...
Just listen to this shit. Just listen to this shit. It's just incredible, well done faction, and it's beautiful to have it in the game. It just brings tears to my eyes how well made this faction is. So it's one of my favorite factions, and I just love it. I just love it. It's nothing is really perfect, but I feel like the Tomb Kings were near to perfect because they tried to change the formula a bit as well. Some people might think it's a miss, but considering people who replay the game and the value of the replaying, I think it was a good mix of things, you know, added to the rest of the factions mix. So yeah, favorite thing, just incredible, incredible faction with incredible background. You know, it was the first time. It was the first time it made me feel actually satisfied and very happy playing the undead. Because, you know, Tomb Kings with their souls, you know, they're not just, you know, held by magic or something like the Vampire Counts. Like, Tomb Kings fighting in the desert during broad daylight felt good. Unlike the Vampire Counts, you're attacking an Empire army out of nowhere and it's a fucking blue sky. It's like fucking just get a drink and open a cold one and it's a nice day. Like, what the fuck? So it made me totally forget about the shit that I forgot about the other undead, and made me really enjoy this. You know, it didn't really hit the undead flavor and atmosphere until we got this one. We'll talk about these problems here when I get the Vampire Counts. Could have mentioned it here, but I left that one for the other one. Least favorite thing about the Tomb Kings is the AI sucks. The AI sucks. And this is part of a really big problem in the game, which I'll be talking in the final thoughts of Warhammer 2. Confederations. Vassal system. The fear factor, you know, what I'm talking about, the evil factions when I was talking about the Dark Elves. This is not really an evil faction, you know, but they could be. They're power-hungry, backstabbing tyrants, you know. You decide if it's evil or not. You know, you can join the Order, you can fight the Order. So there's definitely the evil vibe there. So the thing is, my least favorite thing about them is the AI sucks, and this is a part of a bigger problem. Primarily the confederations and the vassal system. You can't allow factions like Dwarves, Empire to confederate, then High Elves, Dark Elves, Skaven to confederate, and then you put Tomb Kings to the game, and as AI you leave them the same. It just doesn't not really work. That's a problem with the replayability of the game. You start to notice these problems. These factions never really become superpowers or great unless you hold their hands, and even then they're hardly comparable to the actual superpowers. So the least favorite thing about them, their AI, the AI is some of the worst. I think they have a similar problem as the Lizardmen, and it's a combination of balance of power and poor expansion options and limited size at the start. They try to fix this problem with the Empire and Sylvania to guarantee them being great by giving Reichland control of the Reichland, which makes them stronger from the start, is lowering RNG of them succeeding. Same with Sylvania. Meanwhile, Cetra might start with the best city in the Southlands, but he does not start with the best province. His minor region is one of the worst in the game, and there is a swamp in between them and a river or a longer road. So his province is terrible, even if he starts with the best city, and he is pretty much surrounded, and sometimes gets wrecked by the minor factions like Numas, Top Knots, factions that are supposed to be literally be his expansion options, guaranteed expansion. He just gets killed by them. So the AI needs to be better with Tomb Kings. The undead need to have more presence, scarier. You know, sometimes I'm thinking like, what they have done over these years. It's been 5 years nearly of Warhammer 2. I mean, we are in the 5th year, 4.5 years, right? And have you guys noticed over time how we just had the extremes? We either have some faction really rolling, or we have some factions going, you know, being really bad. You know, some of the factions and you know, balance of power in the world. We can talk about this in a separate video, but the balance of power in the world has to be respected. You're playing, trying to, play in a living world. And when the balance of power is not respected in the world, like Southlands, the core of the Southlands, west of the World Edge Mountains, the Southlands east of the World Edge Mountains, there has to exist some kind of balance of power. The competitors, who can win, who are the big players, and who usually wins. This should never be over 60% in any faction favor. Of course, balancing this and changing this so it's makes sense. It's a constant effort. This is one of the reasons why I think the Warhammer 3 team is going to have a really hard time and a job working on the Warhammer 3 Mortal Empress campaign, unless they put real people on them, people who care, people who pay attention, and make them work on it full time. Because when you have massive campaigns and where the parts of the worlds are no longer, just one world, it's pretty much different worlds on the same map. Like different continents can be the worlds on their own, and you could call them like theaters of war. There has to exist some kind of balance of power. There has to exist some kind of way, if not rely on the developers balancing this, then some kind of system, like lucky factions. I think I heard this from one other game, where you randomize some kind of bonus either to economy or to the faction auto-resolve or fog of war, balance of power, to mix things. When you're playing 5 campaigns in a row and in 5 of 5, Reichland and Karazakarak are destroying everybody in the area, this is just a bad game. Even in just 5 of them you get 5 out of 5, this is not good. In every 5 cases, there should never be more than 3 times in the favor of these factions. It's like I hear stories about vampires taking over the empire. I see stories about the Greenskins ruling the Badlands, over bullying dwarves and everybody. And then I see people, see what turn they are on. It's usually like turn 50, 60. Little they know, 20 turns later, probably they are already moved to another campaign. Dwarves with a single settlement, a couple of organ guns, clear all the Greenskins. The empire starts ruling everybody with just one army. So they don't really understand this shift between the tiers. Some factions might be stronger at the start, some factions might be stronger later, but it's ultimately the job of the devs to make this more balanced, and these areas of the map have to maintain some kind of balance of power. Once the game passes from early game to the mid game, then those big shifts should start to happen when the factions start getting bigger and bigger, and it's the usual the players who have had a successful expansion early to the shift into a major power and a superpower. This should never happen before turn 70 or before turn 100. It just removes one whole part of the game, in the case the mid game. And the AI Tomb Kings suffer from this problem, and this is the least favorite thing about them. We could talk about this for a while, but you know how the Tomb Kings work, how they unlock arms and anything. It just doesn't go well with AI having restrictions like that. So it's a balance problem, and they've never really corrected it. Favorite faction of the Tomb Kings? Oh man, I wonder who it is. Yeah.
All vampires.
Henry has only one king. Setla does not serve.
So it's like this is not just my favorite faction lord of the Tomb Kings, but also top 5 favorite lords in the game. Setra the Imperishable. I don't know. Every time I hear his voice, I'm gonna start a campaign. I might be a little bit addicted and obsessed, so I have to move away from him. It's I don't know what it is. It's something special.
I will return to
Least favorite faction is Followers of Nagash, Archon Black. A little bit of surprise here. Most likely, most of we probably thought it would be Aegis of Nagash and Katep. There are reasons why I don't like this faction, and it has something to do with geography and how the continents are shaped. But Arkan literally got the same botched job as Aranesa. I consider Arkan the Black the Aranesa botched job of the Tomb Kings. This faction is lacking real identity. It's too similar to the other Tomb Kings and not enough ties to the vampires. More than this, his starting city is trash and should have been made more special. Factions like both Arkan the Black and Cetra have a difficult time in here due to the problems we mentioned in the least favorite thing. But this guy is facing even more problems. I think they should have given him a special city. I think they should have given him the Lord of the Vampires, a proper one, a proper healing ability, and heck, even access to some other vampire units and the Raised Dead. This is a botched faction, lazy, and it is just unacceptable, I think. Every time they're gonna create one of these campaign packs, we're gonna get shit like this. It's like, no doubt we're going to get it. A lot of these factions, you know, in the old Total War system of factions, let's say, going back to the oldest Total Wars, sometimes you don't even care about, you know, faction identity or what faction has. The one thing that is enough is a different starting location. Having a different starting location is already a game changer. Different experience, either you know, was due to climate, different soundtrack playing on the campaign map, or different early enemies. But eventually you're gonna come closer to, you know, usually, you know, where the conflict is gonna happen, you know, after the early game. I'm not talking about the start of the game, the first 30 turns, I'm talking about the early game, like first 70 turns. So basically, this faction don't even have this. His start is kinda scuffed. He is at the mercy of the dwarves not bullying him. This faction can go hostile. You could try to influence this by going after their enemies, inviting them to war, giving them money, but this can ultimately always be invited against you or declare war on you. So his location supposed to be good, but it's actually opposite. He's too close to Hamry, so this is one of those cases where he does not have a good starting location. He does not have a different starting location. He does not start in a different part of the world. This is the same shit as Cetra, just playing a shittier lord. You can easily just go along the coast, take Hamry. Hamry can easily go around the coast, take the Land of Assassins. Which brings me, this faction has no identity. It's like, it should be more. It's half-assed and lack of effort to make it something more. This faction has enabled the recruitment of certain vampire count units. Crypt Ghouls, the worst vampire count unit, one of the worst vampire count units in the game. Have bad relations with the vampires who get stomped 24/7 unless they got RNG in Fog of War. Like, what? What is this Lord effect? This is horrible. This is like somebody was just doing this on the last day. It's like, what the fuck is this? Just think about it. His Lord effect is that Arkan and his heroes will have 5% more chance to attack, to hit, and 5% more chance to evade melee attacks. Not 10, not 15, but 5. And that's his Lord effect. Well, his faction effect is just has no identity. It's too similar to the other Tomb Kings, on a shit location with an uninteresting city, and you're at the mercy of the dwarves. Doesn't even work on Arkan, just works on the heroes, which is even worse. This guy used to have one cool ability which got removed, thanks multiplayer, and his chariot, I don't think it's ever been tested. his chariot is levitating slightly above ground. But whichever wise guy did this to make it look cool. Holy shit, look at this, that's so fucking cool. Let's put it on YouTube, let's hype the game. But they, you know, forgot to give him attack range. Just imagine you are creating something unique. Let's say we're gonna make a levitating chariot. And they make chariot levitating, but they forget to update attack range. So unless the unit is kissing Arkan in the face, he won't have attack range to swing his weapon from the chariot, which is what makes chariots good. Not only the impact or the animals fighting the beasts, but also the one back in the platform swinging his sword. So you have to be right on top of the unit for Arkan to have a chance to attack. So they put him into the air, they give him a nice, you know, pimp on his ride, and they fuck up his attack range. So yeah, this faction needs more of identity. Right now it's hard to separate them from the other Tomb Kings, and there's really nothing special going about them. Maybe they rework it when they release Nagash, if they ever release it. But you know, Warhammer series will never be completed if they don't release Nagash. If they release Lord Croak, I'm sure they're gonna release Nagash. So this was my least favorite faction, and this man they went for a while, man. I could talk for hours about this guy, man. Just look at me go. Favorite unit of the Tomb Kings is the Hero Titan. Man, when I saw that video, hold on, we gotta have to show it. YouTube Tomb Kings trailer. Holy shit. Check, let's just watch it, and maybe you guys have missed it, but imagine, you know, waiting for new content update and you see this. You see this and it's Undead faction. It's like, let's watch it. This is the tale of Tomb Kings.
True king will show them. We do not serve. We rule.
You see that Hero Titan? I was so full of hope, happiness, tears glowing in my eyes. You know, how can you not love the Hero Titan there? Look at that shit. Hero Titan has a laser like that in the game, but it's lackluster compared to this trailer. It still does something, but it's not as powerful as they showed in the trailer. It does the laser, it's a short animation, and it just fries a couple of guys. Probably doesn't even kill them, maybe it even misses them, probably not even a 100% chance to hit. So, my favorite unit is Hero Titan, it's just because of that trailer. I mean, I was love at first sight. It is not the strongest unit of Tomb Kings, but it is my favorite, and there's it. You get a massive armored giant that has some abilities. It's really durable and it looks amazing. Amazing model. Least favorite unit is obvious, you know. I could just put the stables under one category of units, but the snakes are, I like snakes. But the least favorite unit is the Carrion. It's the Carrion.
All bow, join with us, exiles.
You got Flying War Beast 24, and somehow this is not even a large unit. And you know, the stats look like there's something, but why does it not do anything? And I've been thinking about this for a long time. And then a flying unit lands into the enemy, they're instantly surrounded, hit in the side, hit in the back, and if they're not good, they're losing. I've seen Carrion attack a unit of archers and instantly lose 30 leadership. In under 10 seconds of fighting, they were starting to crumble. You can't make a unit like this with 35 leadership, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, especially, you know, when there no battle skills exist, and if I'm not mistaken, next to no technologies either. So they forgot about this. So Carrion, least favorite unit, you know. If you use like 2 or 3 in the pack, you know, like with Harpies, you know, you can get some performance. But 35 leadership does not work in this unit. Maybe if they had 10 more leadership and they would put battle skills, it might work. What else do we have here? So, one thing I would change about them. It's pretty much the same thing I'd say with the Dark Elves. There has to be some kind of system in the game, either part of diplomacy or, you know, a core mechanic in the game, how much factions fear you. This system should make for the vassals, for collaborators, to factions to fight other factions against their will, and you know, could be expanded into vassal systems for tributes, either financial, economical, or military tributes. If you create a vassal, it should be either for the economic purposes or for the military purposes. And you use this fear system to force other factions to do your bidding. And this system does not exist in the game, and I think it would be perfect for this faction. So, a core mechanic is missing in the game for the evil factions and the factions like the Tomb Kings. Something of a more expanded vassal system, and some fear factor should exist. The factions that hate you should not mean they should declare war on you. They should be other thing than hate. They might hate you, but doesn't mean they're gonna declare war on you. There should be a fear factor and a fear category in diplomacy where it actually, you know, avoids these nuisances, tedium, and shit that make no sense in the standard world and diplomacy. So same boat as the Dark Elves. You know, if they declare this a core mechanic, they could put for the Order faction respect, and the factions who are a bit, they could kind of like create a spectrum. Let's say they create a spectrum where one side is Order, the middle is neutral, and the other side, I don't know what you call it, evil, chaos, whatever. And on this spectrum, you know, there could be benefits on each side of the spectrum. You know? Depending what you're doing in the world, you know? But like, there has to be some kind of system for this, for evil factions. You know, there should not be a, you know, a factor when you're playing an evil faction that not only other evil factions hate you, but also the order hates you. And then because of this, you know, they're going to gang up on you. And there are no systems to combat this. And it just feels worse playing other factions than the others. It feels like so much more work to run a successful evil faction than a successful older faction. You know what I mean? There's like a big core mechanic in the game is missing that needs to tie this shit, you know, separated. So, moving on to the Empire. Oh boy. I'm an Empire fanboy, guys. And I think I was always an Empire fanboy, even before I started playing Warhammer. So, it's not just because it was the first faction I played, but something about this faction. Something about this faction, it's one of the reasons to wake up in the morning, turn on the PC, and get coffee and hope for the next day. It's like, that's how it feels like to me. I love the Empire, it's one of my favorite faction, top 2. And I enjoy them immensely, even after the rework, which, you know, we expected to be more polished, but I forgot to fix the issues. So, favorite thing about the Empire. I just love the Empire. I just fucking love the Empire. It's like, I love Empire more than I love my mother, okay? Do I need to say more? So, I just love the Empire. That's like one of my favorite things about the Empire. Least favorite thing about the Empire. Oh boy. Oh boy. The least favorite thing about the Empire are the CA stat horse and the noobs, who think they play this game for 10 to 20 hours and think they got the knowledge of the universe. The problem is about the noobs, the world is full of them. And one guy can get outnumbered by 100 noobs. A small group of guys can get outnumbered by a red mob. And, you know, the star horse at CA, they listen to these noobs. And they make shit better and worse for the Empire at the same time. Turns the Empire into one of the most overtuned factions in the game, and they still bitch and complain. They still bitch and complain, they still want more. CA gives them 2 fingers, no, they want 3. God damn it. Gotcha, please. Come on. What more do you want? You can't play the game for 10, 20, 30 hours and think that you know something. Fucking hell, man. Just like, pay attention. If you're stupid, if you're too stupid to figure out your own, just compare your gameplay to somebody else. Don't try to think that you need to change things about a faction if you don't understand how they played. You're not playing supernatural faction here. But you idiots, the noobs, and the stud horse of the CA has turned the Empire into a supernatural faction. The most overtuned faction in the game. And it nearly ruined the Empire for me. We still played a lot of Empire and Warhammer 2, but you know, they almost done fucked up. So this is my least favorite thing about them. And you know, I think it might just get worse in the future. I don't know, the stud horse will be whoring and the noobs are gonna be noobs, thinking they need to be a masters of a strategy game in under 100 hours. Favorite faction in the Empire is, of course, Reichland and Emperor Karl Franz. It's my favorite lord in the game. Have you heard his speeches, guys? #1 fan here. Least favorite faction, Legend or the Legend Lord in the Empire, is by far the Golden Order and Guild. Guild, I had the misfortune of being a botched job at Creative Assembly. This Lord is fucking amazing. He's been fucking amazing since day one. But they made him so overpowered over time. And the problem is, it's not the problem with the Lord, is the problem with the Golden Order. The developers think, they can pick a lord from one faction that has multiple lords and just put him into another faction and just create a new name. So it's not called Reichland, it's called Golden Order. With same exact mechanics which make no sense. Instead of Golden Order have some kind of special mechanics, either, helping the Empire as a whole, running their own, faction, thing, being like an agency, and not as a fucking government and an authority in the Empire, because there's only one fucking Emperor. They have done a botched job here, thinking the Golden Order will take over the Empire and they're gonna run the Empire the same way the Emperor Karl Franz will run it. So they've done some lazy botched job here. Instead of giving some, agency level mechanics, they gave them the government. So yeah, I love Balazgeld. I love this guy, but his faction is one of the worst in the game. Absolute dog shit tier. It's a fucking disgrace that what they've done with this faction. Okay. Favorite unit of the Empire? It's a steam tank, man. Steam tank. I can fob to a steam tank. That's how much I love a steam tank. It's a mobile shooting platform with multiple weapons. It cannot really get easily killed, and you can even heal it / repair it. What not to love about a steam tank? Least favorite unit. I realize characters really don't go into category of general units, but I'm gonna have to put my least favorite unit is the Boldman, General of the Empire. Now, I was between the General of the Empire and the Emperor Captain. But, I can forgive the Emperor Captain, being an agent, but what the fuck is the General of the Empire do? I don't know. I don't know what the fuck the General Emperor is supposed to do. I'm supposed to work in multiplayer. When they rework this faction, oh my god, man, they hurt me. They hurt me physically and they hurt me emotionally how fucked up they did this thing here. They have no flavor skills, no variety of skills. They literally just have a flying monster and it's who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? That's enough. Let's get this bold man, not even... Don't even get me started on the unit cards on that shit. So yeah, least favorite unit, General of the Empire, it's a fucking disgrace. One thing to change with the Empire. One thing to change. Only if I had only. Oh my god, I would have changed like so many fucking things. Oh man, I would have done so much, guys. But I can't go on for hours here. One thing to change with the Empire. Man, I was there, but I lost it. God damn! Give me a second. Give me a second to collect my thoughts. Yes, I remember. Fucking hell, I remember. How could I have forgotten? The Empire, Fate, Steel, and the Gunpowder. CA, where the fuck is Fate? Did you forget something? Where the fuck is the Fate of the Empire? There's no Fate. Look at those worship buildings. What they do? They unlock a warrior priest. There's your Fate of the Empire, Mr. Player. Get a warrior priest. What, Flagellants and Volkmar, Archlector? That's not even it. It's like few units. Where is the Fate of the Empire? It's been Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 now, and the Empire is still missing Fate of the Fate part. They need to completely rework the worship building. Make it 5 different tiers. Put the Flagellants to tier 1 where they fucking belong, and add more units. Highest tier building should provide bonuses to these units. Maybe like +2 this, +2 that faction wide. Add some elite units. The Empire to this day has greatswords, and greatsword is supposed to be an elite unit. What about those order elite units, add me some elite Empire infantry. You could put some elite Empire infantry in those units. You know, they could be restricted per building. No big deal. Give me a reason to build them fucking cathedrals. Why the fuck should I worship Sigmar in your game, CA? When you forgot to put the faith into the game. God damn it, man. 2 games and we're still lacking the fate part of the game. Sigmar, what Sigmar, man? Fate, what fate? God damn. So yeah, that's the thing to change. Moving on to the Dwarves. Let me just drink something here. Karazakarak, Dwarves. You know, as this game progressed through the years, it's been what now, 5 years, 6 years. You know, it was between Dwarves, Empire, Dwarves, Empire, Dwarves, Emperor. Always, you know, my favorite factions. You know, somebody could say they have similar fighting styles, or, you know, they're part of the, you know, goodies, the order. But I always loved Dwarves. Anywhere. Ever since, I don't know, Lord of the Rings. Ever since I saw or heard about the Lord of the Rings, I fucking love Dwarves. And they done Dwarves really well in this game. My favorite thing about the Dwarves is them being Dwarves. I just love Dwarves. What's not to love about some of the best equipped, best durable armies? They can deploy beautiful formations and just blow up and outlast any foe. It's incredible. If only we had better battlefields and siege layouts where, you know, we had some nice obstacles, barricades, and different type of walls. You know, one of the things that might be coming in Warhammer 3, but, you know, I'm holding off that copy and pipe for a few more weeks. So, yeah, that's the favorite thing. The least favorite thing about the Dwarves. Oh man, I had it, I just forgot what it was. You know, I could say the least favorite thing about Dwarves is their growth or their replenishment, but, you know, not every faction should have everything, you know. If you think a low growth and low replenishment for a Dwarf is something of a problem with Dwarves or something needs to be changed, you don't really understand it, how the game should be balanced. All factions should have some kind of balance. Either they should not have something insane, should be something closer to the middle, or should have something insane but also some kind of weaknesses. And the growth and replenishment being a problem to the Dwarves, you know, for you know, parts of the campaign, I think that's acceptable. Didn't think it's fair. Oh, least favorite thing about the Dwarves. That's a tough one. I don't know, man. That's a really tough one. You know, I'm gonna have to go with the AI. I'm gonna have to with the AI. The AI is way overtuned. Once the Dwarves hit tier 4, they become a menace. Only they try usually outnumber every other faction. They have high quality armies, which absolutely destroy other AI. So I would say that my least favorite thing about Dwarves is their AI being way overtuned. Where the factions like the Lizardmen, Vampire Coast, Tomb Kings are undertuned, this faction is way overtuned. So the moment they hit tier 4, it feels like they're way overtuned. There are definitely solutions to this. They could, you know, put random bonuses, you know, randomly in the campaign instead of having every campaign, you know, having the same thing. You know, the moment they unlock higher quality, as in get access to stuff like iron drakes, organ guns, flame cannons, it's like everybody's dead. You're fucked. They just auto-resolve in every faction. So this is the same problem with the Empire as well. So, least favorite thing about them, they are very overtuned. Okay. Which category were we here? We were talking about least favorite now. Favorite faction is Karazakarak. I love their location. A bit biased because of Warhammer 1. Love the High King. His model is great and he's a powerful unit on his own. Very satisfying to having on the bells. It's a little bit too much when you're considering when you have to fight him as the AI all the time, but that comes to the problem with the least favorite. But Karazakar is my favorite, and I think this is White Dwarf should get kicked out of this faction because he does not belong here. White Dwarf should lead a random minor dwarf faction in the world, or be a kind of semi-horde. Least favorite faction. It's yeah. Gonna have to say the White Dwarf. Gotta save the White Dwarf under Karazakarak. So my favorite faction and my least favorite faction are the same. I just hated how more powerful Grombrel is with his event and his skills from the start compared to High King. He makes the High King look bad. So my favorite is the High King, my least favorite is the Grombrel. But I like them all really. He makes the Thorium look bad and he does not belong in this faction. Favorite unit, it's Thunderers. Thunderers. I love guns. Isn't Thorium strong enough for the long campaign? The snowball, I don't think it matters, English cake. Later on, it doesn't matter. My least favorite unit is tough, but it's between Bolt Thrower and Jar Bomber, and I'm gonna have to go with Bolt Thrower. Jar Bomber at least has bombs to do overkill damage against infantry, which is kind of irrelevant because everything is overkill against infantry with dwarves on the firepower. While the Bolt Thrower, it does not feel like a dwarf unit. The Bolt Thrower feels like I don't know. It does not feel like a dwarf unit because it's not good performance and not good firepower. I think that unit should have 8 engines, not 4. Or if they don't want to upset the esports, they should have a technology, which they forgot to put, special to the Bolt Throwers, which either increases the range and their fire or gives them twice the entities. So they forgot to put a proper Bolt Thrower technology. So, particular Bolt Thrower technology for entities or range and damage. One thing to change. This is probably just personal experience. I'm not sure how many of you feel this, but I feel like how the dwarves unlock armies and military should be different. Dwarves should probably have the least armies of all the factions. They should be always outnumbered, because when a faction is not outnumbered, has the economy to spam whatever they want, it's no longer dwarves. So I think the whole system, how they recruit armies, should be reworked, and they should unlock armies slowly. Some of their top units should be restricted, like Ironbreaker, like Organ Gun, and either via technology or expansion, you should get access to more armies. In a most extreme example, which, you know, I don't think a lot of will be happy about, I would not even allow dwarves to have more than 4 armies at all in the whole world. Which gives you enough 3 super elite armies which can fight anything outnumbered, and 1 for the emergencies. But it would make more sense up to 6. And this could be unlocked via technologies or other means. I think the way the dwarf work is too streamlined with the rest of the game. It doesn't really feel like dwarf-like. The replenishment feels like dwarves. Their growth feels like dwarves, but their spam is totally opposite. In a game of total war, especially before you become a superpower, there has to be some kind of restrictions on the elite units and the manpower. And dwarves should have more restrictions than any other faction. Although they have the top quality in the game, they should not be able to just spam armies as they unlock more economy. That's a problem with the game, not just with the dwarves. But with the dwarves, it's a more problem, which doesn't even fit the dwarves. You have to understand that dwarves are supposed to fight outnumbered. If you are fighting always one-on-one with the dwarves, it's easy game, easy life. You're just gonna be flying to the campaign. No army really can match dwarves one-on-one in the game. It's like you can deploy and just go AFK. Meanwhile, as you expand, you get access to more armies, more funds, more quality, and you're pretty much not only going to go one-to-one, but the enemy is gonna get outnumbered. And it doesn't fit dwarves at all. I think dwarves should have restrictions to the amount of armies they can have. I think 2 armies could be unlocked via expansion, and more armies can be unlocked by technologies. Or just time. But I feel like, you know, it makes sense, you know, dwarves start small, you know, they're lacking resources, the manpower, they're outnumbered, they work tough. So, you know, they could tie into categories, like they could tie one army if they have a successful trade with, you know, I don't know, 3+ factions on a certain value. You know, if the dwarves are prospering, they should grow. They should have a chance to grow to, you know, become great again. But there should still be some restrictions in place regarding this, and not just unlock like every other army. Economy is the only restriction for the recruitment and the quality and the armies. It's a really bad way for the game, and it doesn't really fit with all the factions. It's a lazy way to do the game, and we just accept it, you know, for what it is. The best given Tomb Kings here? No, Tomb Kings have too many armies, King Roman. Tomb Kings are a swarm faction with too many armies. Dwarves should have less armies. They should have only like a couple categories where they can lock an army, and no more than that. No more than that. Even during a cost campaign where dwarves win, you know, a global war, they should still not be able to, you know, grow like weeds, like the Bretonnia or the Empire. So, in a time frame the campaign goes, the dwarves should never really become like a mega population. So, should always be restricted when it comes to military. Okay, moving on to the Greenskins. My favorite thing about the Greenskins is the flavor of this faction, and obviously another melee grinder faction. I don't know, there is something stupid and silly about the Greenskins that you just have to love. You can just make some stupid shit in the chat and just put a smoke face, and it's gonna make your day better. And that's like my favorite thing about the Greenskins. My least favorite thing about the Greenskins is the Van mobs. My least favorite thing about the Greenskins, the Van mobs, it's they reworked it and they fucked up, and it's bugged, and the only way you can fix it by, you know, bugging it. So my suggestion for it, you know, I don't know. That's the worst thing. Like, what to do? I guess we can put it under a change down there. This is, you know, just like I say, the Van mobs, my least favorite thing about them, and it feels like it makes the AI overtuned, sometimes feel dangerous, Because they can call a vow on a city and then send 5 armies with armies on you, and if you don't have a lightning strike, or if you don't have a certain stage of the campaign, you're fucked. This is usually one of the complaints about the Greenskins. So it supports the AI way of playing the game, but since the lightning strike exists, it's kind of, you know, pointless. The system is flawed, and the system is bugged, and it can be literally targeted on the separate. It doesn't feel like Greens have numbers, it feels like they're still gimped. They're still gimped, so that's my least favorite thing, the VOM mobs. I got to the point where I just disband them, so they don't fuck up my movement and other things. My favorite faction of Greenskins is the Green Boys. I love the position. The city is amazing, one of the best city in Badlands, and it has Grimgor. Grimgor is... I just find Grimgor a lot of fun. What's not to like about hard-hitting mass murderer?
I got me product.
Let's get some. Ready for murdering. Just better involve fighting.
Like, one thing is destroy armies with wizards and abilities and shit, but I find it sometimes very satisfying when you just get your chopper, get in the crowd, and you're the last man standing while everybody's dead. And that's Grimgor, pretty much. Yeah. Least favorite faction, it's...
You want schemes?
Good moon.
I got schemes.
This shit has been... I don't know. This shit has been like a curse to me since this shit got released. You guys seen that picture? Hold on, let me find it for you. I'm looking for it. I'm not sure how old is this shit. See the resemblance? I have spent over 50 days of my life playing Crooked Moon. Some of those days were over 12 hours. In Warhammer 1, playing this faction regularly, it has been a pain in the ass. It's been one of the hardest factions, but you know, if you have experience, if you know what you're doing, you can pull it through. But once we started adding some house rules and playing Digital War style campaign, or you know, trying to do a bigger campaign where you have to fight high elves and shit like this, there are points in the game where this faction literally could do the shit against the high elves, even just a regular campaign if you do a long campaign. Winning a short campaign victory, no problem. No problem, fuck that shit, that's no problem. Before the rework, there was some really masochistic shit with this faction. Just like the levels that have never really existed in Total War. And the problem was not a short campaign victory. Short campaign victory is a fucking joke. An idiot could do it. But a long campaign victory and something more with this faction is an absolute fucking nightmare. The moment where you have to start fighting the elves at a time. So basically, like I said, I spent over 50 days of my life playing this faction. I feel like damaged goods. I feel like I'm never gonna be the same. You know, I was never really of a drinker. We would doing drinking streams sometimes. You know, when things were like still like you know, with the horror games and shit. But you know, after that campaign, I feel like I started drinking regularly on a weekly basis. That's what happens after 50 days of playing this faction. What is wrong with this faction? There are so many fucking things, but I don't know even when to start. It feels like the problem is not just with this faction, but like with other factions. There's a lack of identity, similarities, and just shit faction. When I say shit faction, I don't mean it's a weak faction. It's just, you know, it's just made to be shitty. It's just made to be unhappy And when you do the mix, I don't know. Some people might love this shit, but I'm telling you, find the person who played over 50 days of Crooked Moon. And if he says he likes this faction or he's happy with it, you know, I'm saying fine, sure. There's some, you know, brain dead people around. But fucking hell. Just thinking about the Crooked Moon makes me miserable. And it's like makes me so fucking thirsty, and not for water. It's like it makes me feel like I want to just X like half a bottle or something. For a short campaign victory, no problem. Just like any other shit faction, you can pull through. But at the times where what we did with a couple of campaigns and we want to do some more, like a world domination or a very long campaign, holy fuck, there was some really sadistic, masochistic shit. Like, you know, I was doing some masochistic shit, you guys turned into sadistic fucks, you know, so you guys were enjoying this shit, and, you know, I was, you know, hurting myself. I don't know. This faction feels like it has not given, you know, a fun thing like the Belagar did. The Night Goblins are kinda forgotten, and this faction we get a shitty bonus to Carcade Peaks. It feels like it's the same case like with Nakai and the Hans Marshal. They put all the effort into Belagar and they did this task on the last day. Now, I could talk more about this, but this faction is one that just makes me miserable. Miserable. It's not just because, you know, what it is. Right now it's just a dogshit faction that's nothing special anymore. It used to be at least special if it was just because it was, you know, very hard. Now it's nothing really special about it anymore. Just a bad flavor faction with no real identity, really. A real identity would be, you know, put the Night Goblins to lower tier and give them more benefits faction-wide, but what Crooked Moon? You're just playing a small tribe of Greenskins that go larger. We fed their Grimgor and call it a day. This is a problem with several other factions missing identity, like Bloody Hands and Boner Atlas. They need some kind of, at least, you know, botched mechanic or, you know, more units to make sense. You're playing Bloody Hands, but what you're really playing is a Wurzak in a shit faction. There's several factions in the game that suffer this problem. Lack of variety of the Savage units, not even Savage Heroes or Savage Lords. So you're not really playing Savage Orcs, you're just playing a botched sub-faction. My favorite unit of the Greenskins is Black Orcs. I just like bulky elite infantry that grinds shit. It's Black Orcs. They get into melee, they get shit done. Least favorite unit, oh boy. Least favorite unit, I'm gonna put Night Goblins for the least favorite unit. Because especially after the rework, it feels like so shit. No durability, shit scrap upgrades. Goblins equal not goblins. They are not goblins, and they're goblins in some cases, but they're Night Goblins. The old goblins buff should work on Night Goblins because they're goblins, and not you have to scratch your head which ones work, which don't. The right ones don't work. So I think the Night Goblin part of the Greenskins kind of got forgotten alongside the Crooked Moon. It's a low effort with poor identity, really. One thing to change with the Greenskins, I would change how the WoW works. The campaign, not the reputation, but the WoW which grants you WoW mobs. So I guess the WoW mobs, instead of just you know, breaking the interface and breaking the movement range and bugging the game in 3 categories, I would just give a faction-wide 20-turn buff to the Greenskins, which makes recruiting new lords free, recruiting new heroes free, lower upkeep on all units by 50%, and double the experience on all lords and heroes from fighting. It's pretty straightforward, simple, just a bunch of numbers instead of having some half-assed, botched, bugged systems that they introduced twice already. Okay, moving on. Vampire counts. Oh boy, this is a hard one. This is a hard one, guys. This is one of my favorite factions in the game. This is one of my favorite factions in the game ever since I started playing them. And when I started playing Vampire counts in the, you know, okay, let's go back a little bit. We were playing Empire, and we might have been playing Greenskins second. I don't know. I don't remember who played second, but you know, people start saying like this Total War will just make historical wars history. You know, historical wars changed the day Warhammer got released. You know, the game is you know, just improved on a lot of things according to the, you know, minority historical crowd these days. You know, ruined historical Total War, but one thing is sure, it spoiled the historical Total Wars. So unless they make some serious depth to the campaign gameplay and some battles that don't last more than 4 minutes, I don't know. Historical Total War is in trouble. No matter what happens, the historical crowd has become a minority. Warhammer has taken over Total War, that's for sure. And I have no idea what people were talking about at the time. You know, I was still, you know, liking Rome 2. I was still considering to play it. I was still, you know, in the mindset of playing it more, replaying it. And I didn't really understand what they were talking about until we started playing Vampire Counts. The Sylvanian battlefields, the atmosphere of the vampires, the soundtracks, the units, the magic, the characters. No, that was the first time I started realizing, you know, what they were talking about. And I started liking this faction immediately. Immediately, it was like I knew it's gonna be with me for a long time. It is a faction that has no range units other than a couple of special units from Von Carson Bloodline in the Regiments Renowned section. And faction that has overall lower stats on most of the units. Half of the faction I like to think, say it's still in Warhammer 1, while other half is being trampled by the power creep. And I still like them, I still enjoy them. You guys seen my Vampire campaigns, we can do great things with them, but you know, not for the lack of, you know, not for this faction being weak, but we are putting some serious effort in these campaigns. If you look at my campaigns, if you look at the my campaigns, and if you look at me playing like elves, like dark elves, high elves, wood elves, any idiot can play this shit, and then how much turns take in minutes, and if you compare this thing to the Vampire counts, Vampire counts require so much more planning and so much longer turns, so much effort to actually, you know, make them work. It feels like it's a combined effort of everything, campaign-wise and a battle-wise, to get ahead. Simply because, you know, this faction was supposed to be work towards the end. And this whole process of making them work has become kinda, you know, it might feel like a chore, but it's become enjoyable. It's become enjoyable as well. You know, and I would have probably loved them more if it wasn't for the resurrection crashes, which kinda totally ruined the experience. So my favorite thing is, other than all I said here, is, you know, I like undead, I like the vampires. You know, I'm considering myself half a vampire considering my, you know, one I prefer knights. And it's a beautiful faction that works amazing when everything is put together. Their lord with their heroes and the right combination of units, then you can apply various magic to them. It works beautifully. So this is my favorite thing about them. My least favorite thing about them is pretty much the same thing, but on the AI side. This is supposed to be a scary faction that's swarm you, that outnumbers you, but it's kind of the opposite. You know, the Empire has higher quality. The AI does not know how to use their systems. The raise dead system is RNG for the AI. If they get luck with couple battlefields, they might prosper. Best case scenario, they will do well in the fog of war. So as an AI, this is probably, I consider, the easiest faction in the game. Literally, you know, we're gonna fight faction counts like just send me in. Send me in! I'm gonna be in the vanguard! Send me in! This shit used to be scary in Warhammer 1. Fiddy used to do something, Terror used to do something, used to be -10. The fear effects kind of became sucky, everybody got too much leadership, the Empire got fucking overtuned. The AI vampire counts, I consider them dog shit tier, man. The moment anybody gets any range experience units, they just get trampled. You know? The AI can sometimes perform, especially going north, ignoring conflict with the west, and if Reichland goes to civil wars with other factions. And this usually might happen in Fog of War. If you guys are not familiar, there's again a different behavior regarding balance of power in the regions when factions are in Fog of War. So, thinking that vampires have 20 settlements on turn 60 and they're rank 1, thinking this faction is strong, wait another 20 turns and see what happens. So yeah, I would say that in over 80% of the instances, this faction just gets stepped on like a bug. Like a bug. And one of the most crippling effects of these factions is they are recruiting zombies. Not only zombies, but there's a category of another 3 to 4 units which totally shit on their balance of power. It's the range meta imbalance in auto-resolve and balance of power, so they just scantily keep up with it. And in battles, they don't know how to use their wizards well and play their faction better. There's a 5-hour video talking about vampire counts, another Jibber, if you haven't seen it. Favorite faction is Slovenia. Slovenia has 2 lords. Gotta pick a secondary lord here. I love Manfred, but I learned to love Helman Gorst as well. Love this necromancer. Why do I love Helman Gorst? Why I put this on my favorite lord? He probably gonna end up in a separate factions eventually. He has 20% casualty replenishment and 20% research from the start. And he has the strongest vampire army because it has poison for literally all the units. Unless you're doing something special, most versatile, strongest army is in his army. He has solid items, and he's literally an early game Morris engine, which is destroyer of economy otherwise. So I love Helman Gorst. I think he should be put in a different faction over time, but who knows what's gonna happen. Least favorite is the Battle Legion. I think this sub-faction, the Vampire Counts, is a miss, and I think they have no identity. They miss with the flavor. The Heine Kemmler is a very cool lord. I love Heine Kemmler. Has a flavor that we use from the start with these units here. I'm glad they have improved it even further. He's an incredible lord, but his faction is dog shit. Nothing really special about them other than a starting location. You would think that something is special here, but just you know, think about 5 minutes after you watch some of the early game with the Battle Legion. What do really you get from these faction effects? I think if you create a faction like this, call them the Battle Legion, you should put more favor into Master Necromancers, give them something extra. Preferably give the whole faction skeletons, skeletal units, frenzy, and or regeneration. Make them differ from the other factions. This faction is horrible faction. This is a low effort, and no identity. But the Lord is amazing. The Lord is amazing, just the faction is trash. Favorite unit. Favorite unit. That's a tough one. It's changed over time, so I gotta go with the Blood Knights. I gotta go with the Blood Knights because their voice over, their looks, their performance, they really feel like elite cavalry unit. It makes the vampire counts a little bit brighter. So Blood Knights. Blood Knights, my favorite unit. Least favorite unit is zombies. I don't think zombies should even exist in the campaign, other than just throwing me under bus, because at the time you don't have skeletons, or you know, that's the only thing you could have recruited. Zombies are just trash skeletons with no speed, which have separate tier of technologies. Just waste your research time, because it's separate from the free skeletons. Zombies not only are placed into garrisons to make garrisons dog shit, mess up you and the AI out resolve. Mess up, I wouldn't even say mess up, I would say cripple the AI. Zombies are good for massive graveyards. You do realize the skeletons have 160 in them as well. You're a reason why the zombies are still in the game. I'm just kidding. So basically, you get zombies cost 100, you get skeleton cost 300. And this is the only difference. You can also throw a skeleton army under bus if you want to get a big graveyard. I think a zombie should be taken out of the standard roster and put them into a mechanic. Because when you research technologies, you're gonna unlock free skeletons, and you're not gonna waste your time on free zombies, because zombies can do shit. Zombies are there just to die, and they're too slow as well. They just mess up the sync of the army in the attack. I think zombies cripple the AI. The AI recruit zombies, raise dead, even heck just add them. And they destroy their balance of power. They weaken them as a faction. They lose battles because of it. So AI should never recruit zombies, even for the player. They should just remove the zombies. So basically, what I want with the zombies to remove from the roster and put in a server mechanic. They could use a unique resource. Let's say you start a battle, you have a deployment zone. Zombies should be deployed. You should probably have like zombies, skeleton warriors, and fell bats. Those three categories probably. And each one has a different cost. The zombie being the cheapest, fell bats being the most expensive, skeleton warriors in the middle. And you should be able to deploy extra units on the battlefield in the vanguard area ahead of your army as a big swarm. And this is how the zombies should be used. This is the only way how the zombies should be used. They should not exist in garrisons, they should not exist in the armies, and they should not exist on the AI to cripple them. The AI should never have zombies in the armies. It just fucks up their whole game and it makes them shit. That's how bad that unit is. One thing to change. What I would change, I would create a new resource for the vampire counts. I would separate their currency. They should have gold, pay for diplomacy, to pay for buildings, to pay for armies or whatever, to pay for... They don't even have to pay armies with the gold. For buildings, for diplomacy, for hero actions. And the dark magic should be created a unique resource, which can be used for this mechanic to deploy zombies or these extra units in the vanguard. This dark magic could also be used for various things. It could be used for the raise dead, could give you more quality of life and control of the raise dead, and for other things. One day I think we will see dark magic being used for various purposes with for the vampire counts, and gold for, you know, their generic stuff. Okay, oh boy.
The eternal challenge.
Norska. I fucking hate Norscan factions. Being an Emperor fanboy and being harassed by scalings for months, you would understand if you've been there. So, Norska. Favorite thing about them. I guess it's a fun melee roster. Fun melee roster that supports melee grinders. You know, playing a faction as a melee grinder, you know, it's fun. Least favorite thing about the Norska is their campaign. I fucking hate it. They are so pathetic on the campaign. Their position, their lanes, as the AI player, doesn't matter. Favorite faction, we have only two. Pick Wulfric and put the Trog as the least favorite. Not much to say here. I think Wulfric is in a better spot.
To the four corners.
And also better faction. Favorite unit is War Mammoth. It's an absolute trampler of the infantry. Least favorite unit. There it is. Marauder Ice Wolf Chariots. Let me show you this unit for a second. Let me tell you about this unit. This is a very strong melee chariot. Melee chariot. Doesn't say missile chariot. Melee chariot. It's tough. It prettily cripples the enemy. It has good damage, good anti-infantry, good charge. It has rage. A really solid melee chariot. Really scary in the AI hands. But the AI, some wise guy at CEA has decided to give this unit a range attack. And the AI is instructed to use this unit primarily as a range unit. So instead of being fucking intimidated of these units on the battlefield, you just fucking laugh because they throw their axes, you know, and doing 0 DPS. Every time I see it, I lose some of the brain cells to the point of brain hemorrhaging. So I fucking hate it, and I don't want to see it in my army, and I don't want to see them pretending to be a range unit when they're not. Bad code and shame on CA not fixing this in many years. This unit is easily fixed. It should be a melee unit with a fire at will attack, same as the Arachnoric Spider, but I guess I'm the only one seeing this. One thing to change. Well, this is fucking easy. Make Norska territories a fucking living hell. If it is a fucking living hell for the Norska and the player, it should be a fucking living hell for the invaders. This is some of the most dangerous environments in the Warhammer universe. Just think about fucking like the most unlivable environment, and add chaos corruption to it. It's not all chaos corruption, but for the way they made this action, they even made it worse. The AI has, if I'm not mistaken, not only 80% reduction to the environmental attrition, which makes them practically immune to it. And they have also 80% reduction to the chaos corruption attrition, which makes Norska territories look to them like a fucking joke. Apparently, the wind in the Norska can blow so hard that they are so cold that you actually just die from the wind. Where the fuck is the chaos corruption then in the mix? Meanwhile, fucking Lewin gets an army of peasants and just goes click that settlement, that settlement, that settlement. What's worse, it's they get even walls there, tier 3 settlements. So the thing to change is Norska itself. The Norska should be fucking terrifying territories. I think to balance it, they should make it like like a thing. Like unique to Norska. It's like, I don't know, giving this idea to the CA, it's like if they feel like just gonna go Pepe Meltdown, we can do that shit, we need to make another DLC instead. So let's say the first 5 turns in the campaign, the Norskan territories are fucking unbearable. If you're outside the settlement, you fucking die. Turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you end your turn outside the settlement, it should be fucking chaos, destroy you. Unless you're Norska, have the resilience, pretty much for a Norska. So for an invader, the first 5 turns every turn, make them just anybody being there outside the settlements, you're dead. Like 2 turns, you just die. Lower the AI desire to invade Norska to next to like 1 out of 10. So, turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Norska is lethal. You will not live there. Let's say call that a winter part of the of Norska. The next 5 turns, the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is regular Norska territories. There is snow, there is frozen, there is chaos corruption, you know, and this should matter, do something. They could assign it to a different one. It should still be a dangerous terrain where people outside the settlements should have a difficult time. And then after those 5 turns pass, turns 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, again, fucking lethal death. You know what I'm saying? Just create another layer of mechanic of the climate for the Norska. Norska should be a fucking living hell for the AI, not just for the player. Okay, this is just one suggestion. I could give like 10 of these, but you know, goddamn Elon Musk hired all the rocket scientists, and CA doesn't have anybody to work with. They have to hire, you know, I don't know, janitors and interns and shit to work in their game. Or they're making a FPS game or some shit. Okay. Let's move on to Bretonnia. Okay. Guys, I love Bretonnia. I love Bretonnia, and the thing that I like the most, my favorite thing about Bretonnia, it's how pretty the units are. I mean, just look at Lewin here. Look at his armor. Look at his sword. Look at his shield. It almost gives you an illusion that you might be playing Medieval 3 Total War. Gives you hope that they're gonna list Medieval 3 by the end of the century. The units are beautiful. I'm not talking about dirty peasants, I'm talking about knights. I'm talking about knights errant, knights of the realm. I'm talking about, you know, the big ones. They're fucking beautiful. Really pretty units. And I almost feel like, you know, you're playing a medieval game. So that's my favorite thing about Bretonnia. My least favorite thing about Bretonnia is their campaign objectives. The campaign objectives are dog shit. They do not belong in Warhammer 2. Very lazy done, low effort. A lot of these things blame Mortal Empires, you know, not giving enough attention, and that Iron Work shit gets all the attention when they're making new shit and patching and shit like this. Imagine the Iron Works didn't exist, how much better the Mortal Empires would have been. Or would have just slaked and worked another FPS game instead of, you know, just putting more effort here. Who knows? Favorite faction is Kron. Kron. Because, you know, Kron is Kron. Lewin starts the powerful army. And Lewin is Lewin. He gets the best city, best province. Least favorite faction is Albric. Albric is this. Okay, we played recently Albric in Autos Only campaign. You know what Albric feels like? It feels like one of them, you know, factions that list in Rome 2 and they charge you money for it. And what they did, they just unlocked a faction, a campaign map, added a couple of events, and one unique unit, and they, you know, sold this DLC. Bretonnia was a free DLC, and they put a lot of effort in Lewin and in Enchantress. Just look at the model and the voiceover. But Albric is kind of like a black sheep of Bretonnia. It feels like, I mean, having a generic lord, that's not the worst thing. But it feels like out of place. It feels like something, you know, you're gonna be in Bretonnia. It's not like it's gonna be different locations. This guy is not properly specialized. Because there's a dog shit faction effect, a dog shit lord effect. It should be something more. Bordeaux is famous for trade, so you get 25% more trade, so you make like 80 more gold per turn when you have 20 trade agreements. Lord effects, this is a fucking disaster, man. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? 10 defense for Knights of the Realm. What? Why would they recruit Knights of the Realm like request Knights? So there's a little bit of problems here. It's like missed faction effects, missed flavor, and he feels too generic. He's suffering from the Rome 2 DLC factions. This guy was free, so I can't ask for much, but I wish there was kind of mechanic with him to make him more unique. If they add any new mechanics to Bretonnia, I should have a new mechanic to Albrecht. Make it something with trade or with hunting pirates or some shit. One thing to change. Oh boy, I waited for this one. I waited for this one. Let me just get some water. In their infinite wisdom, the developers created peasant economy, and it was good. Until the players started scratching their heads. Huh. Why would I recruit peasants when I can just recruit knights? Makes no sense. And then the players recruited all knights and life was good. And the peasant economy renamed the game. So, what the fuck is the purpose of the peasant fucking economy? What idiots have created this system? Do they even understand how shit work? Have they ever fucking played the game? Reverse the fucking peasant economy. Make peasants' life matter until they die in the next battle. Limit the fucking knights and don't limit the fucking peasants, you fucking idiots. Who did that shit? Hopefully that guy no longer works there. So, as you get more stables, more provinces, you unlock more knights. And not this peasant economy they put in the game, that shit makes no sense. You spam knights like they're fucking made in the factory. While the peasants, who the fuck cares about the peasants? Okay, moving on. We are now on the Wood Elves. Favorite thing about the Wood Elves? They're elves. Man, I have something for the elves. You know, the archers, the archers just, I don't know, just, they do something for me. They do something for me, and, you know, they make me happy. You know, people have ruined it over time, you know, the public opinion, but archers in Total Wars always made me happy. I remember being a young, stupid kid, playing modded Armenia in Rome Total War, Rome Total Realism mod, and I just loved to see arrows fly. And I just love to kill everything with arrows. And I love elves, and I love arrows, and they shoot people, and they're good at it. But, you know, the similar reason that I have high elves and dark elves, you know, what's favorite thing about them, it's kind of different with the wood elves. Favorite thing about them now is how unique they feel compared to the rest of the campaign. Devs have done a great job with this rework. They might have fucked up the thresholds and added amnesia to diplomacy, but they've done a fucking amazing job with the wood elves. Best rework yet. So that's my favorite thing about them. They feel like so unique compared with the rest of the stuff. Least favorite thing about them. Oh boy. I fucking hate Ateloran. I despise it. Ateloran has no fucking value. Which wise guy has created Ateloran and given you no fucking value for it? So I think Ateloran, not just for the invaders that conquer it, but for the Wood Elves themselves. If the Wood Elves, any of the Wood Elves faction, anybody controls Ateloran, they should get some significant bonus to it. I don't know what. It could be something like Skaven Blight, 50% more movement if they start a turn. Economy, resources, fucking, I don't know. Some Slanesh cults in the trees. Something has to be done about Ateloran. Ateloran fucking sucks. Wood Elves control it, they should get some benefits. And if they should, you should have a reason to invade Ateloran. Cause you know, fighting Wood Elves sucks, and why would you wanna fight them if you don't have no rewards for them? You know, murdering elves should be rewarded in itself, but it's not fucking enough. We live in a society in 2022. If you don't give me a reward, I'm not going to do it. So fuck you and fuck your Ateloran. I'm going to ignore you and I'm not gonna take you. So I want fucking rewards for Ateloran, And I want fuck it now. You hear me? Now. Give me rewards for Atta Loren. Give me a reason to take Atta Loren. Okay. Moving on. Favorite faction of the Wood Elves is Argelon, because I love Durtu. Durtu is the bomb. I know, guys, I have a thing for melee grinders, but you know, Durtu not only has that, but he has big sword and he has magic. He just tramples armies. You guys remember when the vampire counts were fucking terrifying, you know, as in, you know, they had 60 elements and you would just kill them all with one army because they sucked. You know, but one of my favorite things to do is, you know, send Durtu and just destroy countless undead because they have no chance against him. So Durtu is my favorite, and I just love him in battles. Love battles with him. Least favorite is Talsin. Don't get me wrong, I like Orion, but they botched it. They done fucked it up. In the rework, the Orion got the worst part of it. It's fucking sad. A demigod. He has demigod stats. He's great, but his faction is a fucking botched job. They're out of ideas or some shit, who knows. Favorite unit. This is kind of tough because you have different type of units in the Wood Elves. You got the Forest Spirits, you got the Beasties, and you got the Elves. And I'm gonna have to go with Durtu. I just love the durability of Trikin, and the amount of toughness this unit can have is some of the highest in the game. They literally will not be able to get killed with the right support. It's disgustingly effective. It's like, just imagine Iron Breakers, except they're monsters, and you can heal them. So they don't have the weakness of infantry. Least favorite unit. Okay, least favorite unit. I'm gonna put a lot of thought in this. Just 1 second. Great Eagle. Okay, moving on. One thing to change. What I would change with the Wood Elves. What I would change with the Wood Elves. That's a tough one. It's a tough one. It is true that since the rework, the Wood Elf AI has been lacking. So one thing I would change, I would put like a 1 to 10 RNG if they go hostile or no, and leave their forest. It sometimes it feels like they're just brain dead. Other than the sisters and the Draika, the rest of Wood Elves feels like dead. Durtu never leaves his forest, and Talsin only leaves when provoked. So the Atta Loren Wood Elves, they feel like lobotomized. They feel like they've been lobotomized. I would like to see Durtu moving outside more, maybe trail around, hunt some dwarves, while Talsin being more active in the neighborhood. It might be as lawful, but I recognize lobotomy, you know, when I see it. Why is Draika not lobotomized, or the other one? Durtu just being in the forest and not moving, let him just at least poke into Paravon or Karak Norn. They can be there around the forest. Just tie to the adjacency of the forest. They don't have to conquer the world with a train of armies. I just want to see some life in around Atta Loren. Let them just touch the adjacency of Atta Loren, and that's it. That will only make it better. Beastmen. Oh boy. Favorite thing about the Beastmen. Guys, I won't lie to you guys, this is one of the factions, you know, even from the start, there was something. We were playing Warhammer 1 with Empire, Vampire Counts, Greenskins, Dwarves, and Warriors of Chaos. Bad news, I forgot. I forgot something. My bad. My bad. I forgot the favorite units of Bretonnia. Grill Guardian is my favorite unit because they're beautiful and they're literally just armored infantry on horses. They're hammer and the anvil. And my least favorite unit is Foot Squires. They're tier 4 dog shit. Okay, where were we? Beastmen. So as I was saying, Warhammer 1, we had only 5 factions to play, so we would play them on rotation. We would play them so fucking much that I would start dreaming them on rotation too. And then they released the Beastmen. It was so fucking refreshing to see Beastmen, especially because the Warriors of Chaos were kind of like underwhelming, bad replenishment, everybody was just chasing them, and the Beastmen would be a liberating faction to play. It's like, it was playing like Chaos, but nobody would bother you, you would bother them. And it felt so refreshing at times, it made me happy. Just happy to play them. And over time, you know, I played a lot of Beastmen, guys, you know that. I played a lot of Beastmen. Let me tell you, in Warhammer 2, before they got their unique names, the factions, we played 9 Beastmen campaigns. 9. I was trying to find that happiness, but it was gone because the power creep and outdated and shit like this. Since the rework, I don't know, it brought this back. They turned the Beastmen from one of the most, one of the worst factions in the game, overpriced with the literally shit factions with just a couple of good things, into one of the most overpowered faction in the game. So my favorite thing about the Beastmen is like the feels when you're playing them. You know, you're not attached to the... It's basically, it comes down with the hordes and comes down with their hiding. So it feels like very liberating to play them. Very good for replay value, and by playing Beastmen makes me want to play other factions more again on a replay. So you have melee factions that can pretty much do whatever they want, and they can choose when to engage and who to engage. And this is what I like about the Beastmen. Least favorite thing about the Beastmen is their AI. The AI is fucking dog shit. You know how the Beastmen tend to respawn close? I feel like the Beastmen should be more active around very powerful factions, and they should do a little bit better. Let's say we are in the first 30 turns of the campaign, and the Beastmen are respawning around. They should be respawning around, if it's Khazrak, they should be respawning. If it's regular Beastmen, they should be respawning around the Empire. Or the Empire, maybe Bretonnia, maybe Dwarves. And depending what turn it is, they should have higher tier units, high quality experience, and higher ranks, and they should do some chaos. As turns go on, they should spawn with more armies at the same time, and they should cause some trouble. They should cause some trouble. If they're on a respawn timer, the AI clearly cannot play this faction. They have been not instructed to use the Bloodgrounds. So what they can do is the Beastmen should be the original invaders. They appear, they assemble, they start doing causing shit. You assemble an army, you smack them. That's the lore of the Beastmen. Unless they get a large enough army, they can't do shit. And they're dying in the game like this. They never really get large to do anything. So as the game progresses, the respawn mechanics should make them larger and stronger. And let's make it like every 30 turns. Just make the Beastmen a 30-turn timer, and they should spawn around the factions they hate, and they should harass those factions. Balance the Empire a bit, balance the Dwarves a bit, whoever is in the area. They're gonna smack a couple of provinces, and they're gonna get destroyed. Just make it enough for a nuisance for extra battles. You know, if you're a player side of things, you're a player, you're fighting this, you know, you're gonna know they're gonna come, and you're gonna see what territory is coming. You're gonna have to deal with this. You know, that's just what Beastmen are. They're supposed to be annoying, they're supposed to be a nuisance, but if they just had one army that you just right-click and delete and faction destroyed, what the fuck do they do? Nothing. They should at least have some chance to cause a mess. This is a faction that should cause a mess for civilization, and as the AI, they really don't do shit. There was a time when the Beastmen would do something, and you know, they were kind of overtuned, click, 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 and you know, you would see they would destroy a lot of stuff. It's like, why do we just have these extremes? Either dog shit or something that's clearly, you know, overtuned or bugged. Why can't we something have in the middle ground? Create some kind of events that spawn the Beastmen as the campaign progresses, make them a larger threat, but you actually have the military to defeat them. Clearly, the devs have cut the Beastmen out of the Chaos Invasion. They just put one war herd there, which is, I don't know what the fuck they even exist anymore. The Beastmen should just, you know, do their own thing. They could work with the other evil factions or the Chaos, but make them do something. This is a faction that's supposed to be fighting where you're weak and fighting when you're, you know, not prepared. And I feel like because of this annoyance factor, you know, this faction is just dead. And this is one of the problems why the other factions are just running with the game. I'm not saying constantly. I'm making it on a timer between about 30 turns. Make it close to the hostile factions. These factions will never work as the AI unless they create a system. The current system obviously don't work. And this is what the Beastmen are doing. Have you ever played the Beastmen? Just think about it, what you're doing when you're playing Beastmen. In the middle of your territory. They don't have to be in the middle. They could create spawn zones in the various territories. Let's say you control the Talbeklan Midland. Could be one of their areas to spawn. This is how the Beastmen work, and they should have more presence. There is a reason the cities get fortified. There's a reason you should be on alert and have armies. They're respawning anyways, but they're doing nothing. It just looks embarrassing and pathetic. Meanwhile, the player is a fucking god playing the Beastmen, and the AI is dog shit. Favorite faction of Beastmen? I'm gonna have to go with Malagor here, because I love starting with a wizard. Unlock the arcane items earlier. He has campaign moon range for all armies, and as a lord is pretty nice. Has some flavor which you can push, or you can just keep it going average. And having a wizard as a starting lord is incredible. Might be even better than the rest of them just because of a wizard. Least favorite faction is let me be clear. All four are very good. All four are very good. I'm satisfied with all four. I just picked Malagor because, you know, I like to start with a wizard. I like to start with extra campaign mode range and get those arcane items early. Least favorite one is the Solomon tribe and Taurox. And the reason is very simple. He makes the other three factions look bad. He has the faction effect instead of some kind of, you know, trivial bonuses or buffs. And simply because it has a faction effect, he not be, you know, as great as Morgur or Malagor when it comes to, you know, how much he can do for the army. But his faction effect is next level. It's just incredible. So he's my least favorite because he makes the others look bad. Favorite unit are the Minotaurs with shields. Man, I've upped to these boys since 2016, late 2016. Look at this shit, man. Absolute fucking beefy killers. Least favorite unit is the Manticore, because they forgot to buff him on the skills. Technology has poor effect. It's just been forgotten, really. I prefer the shields because they got durability and the damage in one. All the three Minotaurs are good. One thing to change. How about some fucking balance? No hot fix, no cold fix, no fucking patch. There's no fucking balance. Release some ridiculous power creep and systems with no tuning. Just leave it like this. This faction snowballs too fast and it has received no balance changes. It's fucking stupid. I'm not talking about Taurox, I'm talking about Beastmen in general. They made them too easy and overpowered. And no restriction on balance whatsoever. Okay. Coming to the Warriors of Chaos, which is the worst DLC ever released for the Warhammer series. It was a pre-purchase bonus for... Hold on. There's a KQ. So, Warriors of Chaos. Worst DLC they released, and they still charge money for this. What I like about the faction, my favorite thing about the Warriors of Chaos is because they were different than the other factions at the time. I'm speaking from Warhammer 1. They were a horde with a different playstyle, and they would literally not care about how the other factions play. I think having such a different playstyles is very healthy for replayability of the game, and it can make the game, you know, more enjoyable because you're cycling, you know, content in a different playing styles, which adds so much more replayability to the game. So them being a horde and being a melee faction, okay, so this was my favorite thing at the time. Other than this, I don't think that's changed since then. I don't think it's changed since then. Least favorite thing about this faction is fucking bare bones. They charge money for this shit. It looked like it'd been an AI faction that's been done in the last week of production. Because, you know, they were part of the Chaos Invasion. Fucking bare bones. You know, we know this why, because, you know, the faction is coming, the you know, their rework is coming in a, you know, game on their own. So, it's horrible. It's like, bare bones faction. The systems, the mechanics. Don't even get me started with Chaos Corruption. I could probably write a book about how bad they've botched in Chaos Corruption. It's literally doesn't do anything. The Chaos Corruption should be like an in-depth mechanic with various layers and shit, but it's dog shit. The most powerful force in the Warhammer universe, and the CMX is like fucking light rain. Okay. What do we have next? Favorite faction. I mean, you're gonna have to go with a favorite lore because it's only one faction. Just one guess. What the fuck is this? Favorite lord is Archaean, because he has incredible stats, and he's a fighter and a wizard. What not to like about that? He's very powerful. This guy's supposed to be the most powerful champion in the Warhammer universe. His stats are still there. Stats are still there, quite terrifying. But his sword has become worse than an ogre blade. Kid you fucking not, you get an ogre blade, just dump that Slayer of the Kings into the river. His faction effect, what still makes this faction bearable even in Warhammer 2. Very high damage through the experience, and it's just devastating. It's just like absolute killer. I'm looking forward to see what they're gonna do about Archaean in the Warhammer 3. And I'm hoping he gets a whole new power level in there. Least favorite lord, it's Sigvald, because he kind of forgotten. We, you know, guys, we are memeing about Sigvald. We are, you know, Salnation shit and Shoulder Can Divine, got you hyper, got you please, and all these emotes, but they fucking ruined this shit, man. It's like, he's beautiful, guys. He is magnificent, but as a lord, fucking hell, man. They give some mumbo jumbo lords armor piercing damage. Minimal Sigvald, champion of chaos, scion of Slanesh. fucking hell has chaos artifacts of godlike powers, and he can't even compare to fucking some random guy that got added later to the game because of power creep. They really botched Sigvald in the second half of the Warhammer 2. They added some stuff, but I have fucking hated what they done his faction effects. It's total dog shit. I mean, look at his faction effect. Marauder units gain their rage passive ability, which further upgrades to Berserk rank 7 above. Who is going to get Chaos Marauders to rank 7? Fucking hell, these idiots. Diplomatic relations plus 20 with Norska. What? Norska fucking needs I don't know what Norska needs, a fucking mod installed to actually do something in the campaign. You're gonna have a good relation with them. Leadership plus freedom when fighting against men. My 85 leadership infantry is gonna need another 15 leadership, I guess. Yeah. His lot effects are good, which means unlock is fine, but this faction effect, this is fucking lazy shit. Meanwhile, Archaon gets up to 27% extra damage on veteran units. What you gonna pick? By the way, Wizard unlocks Arcane items from turn 1. You do know that there's some kind of bug in the game where the game can roll an Arcane item, but your Lord can't use it. It will not give you an item. So having a Wizard from turn 1, it's incredibly powerful, the items. So this Lord is magnificent, but holy shit, man. Holy fuck, I better not see this in Warhammer 3. This is like some lazy ass shit. Incredible starting units though. They give Archaon absolute ridiculous faction effect. Meanwhile, Kolek has a faction effect, you're gonna get ambushed. Cheaper recruitment on the Dragon Ogres, more corruption. Who done this shit here? Who are these people? Hopefully they get fired. This is absolute dog shit. Chaos, guys. You know, if CA have created this world, like, nobody would worship Chaos. Nobody would even fucking join the Chaos, because they make them fucking dog shit. We'd all be supernatural state troops of the Empire. Bullying Manfred and his henchmen, you know, even before lunch. Fucking hell, man. They made Chaos a fucking joke. Have you guys seen a Chaos Lord in a Gladius compared to Chaos Lord in this joke of a game with the Chaos? Chaos is absolute fucking dog shit. What the fuck are we supposed to worship Chaos for? Everybody's has stronger shit than them. What are these rewards from the Chaos? I'm gonna grow a second dick? What the fuck am I gonna do with a second dick, man, if I can't even use the first one? My favorite unit is the Hell Cannon. My favorite unit is the Hell Cannon. It's an incredible artillery unit. And cannon gives an illusion that the Chaos has some range. A skilled manual use of this unit is a super destructive. Super destructive. Little like having a super efficient wizard. So, Hell Cannon, my favorite unit. My least favorite unit is the Manticore. I was thinking between a Manticore and aspiring champions, but man, there's something that really irks me about the Manticores, man. I don't know, something really irks me about Manticores, and it's my least favorite unit. One thing to change about the units, by the faction, so you basically just highlight all three and send them into the recycle bin and empty the recycle bin and go back to the drawing board. And see you in Warhammer 3. So basically, we went through all the factions here, guys. I'm gonna just mention a few things, you know, regarding like everything combined. Warhammer 2 is at the end, and we're most likely never going to play it again when the Warhammer 3 gets released, unless they fucked up. One thing that is affecting the a lot of balance in the game, player air-wise, is the range meta. It's really dumbs down the game. People usually picks easy over hard. Even if you know there's options. It's the fear of not performing battles. It's the fear of taking too much casualties, because melee is made to take casualties. But most importantly, it's been fucking up the balance of the game regarding balance of power and auto-resolve. The factions, as they get experience, and it affects the range units way more than any other unit. And the factions who have better range units just stomp the factions who have weaker range units because of this. I'm hoping they do something about this. Either lower reload reduction times from experience by half, lower the ammunition, and or create ammunition in the army as part of the replenishment. Which means you would have a limited ammunition. And not win every single battle with ammunition. Of course, special factions like the elves and maybe dwarves, they will have the ways to have you know, these things ahead, because you know, these factions like the elves, you know, they are you know, archer factions. You know, factions that are specialized in this, of course, should have benefits from this. I'm not sure what they're gonna do about this, but I feel like nothing has been done regarding this, and it's gonna be business as usual. It's too early to say, we haven't seen much, so we're gonna have to see in Warhammer 3. Another thing I want to see that's upsetting the balance of the game, not so much for the player, but for the AI confederations. I wish they do something about confederations. And you know, since they run out of rocket scientists and the complex matters are out of their hands, I would suggest either allow every faction to confederate only once, with the exceptions of some factions, on a turn limit. And nobody should confederate more than once every 20 turns, if not 25-30 turns. At least 20 turn cooldown between the confederations. Some factions, confederations make sense, and some factions, confederations don't make no sense. AI that can confederate will stomp the AI that can't, and confederations also cause superpowers before the mid-game. I think the Skaven should not be allowed to confederate. No, never, ever, ever, the Skaven should not be allowed to confederate. In the case they allow the Skaven to confederate, when you confederate all the Skaven clan, you should kill their lord. The game gets quite imbalanced when you control more than one legendary lord, and it kind of loses uniqueness and a faction specialty and replayability, if you ask me. So I hope they do something about confederations. Regarding the AI balance, different size of the world should have different balance of power. The fog of war, the visual, there has to be a constant change, fine-tuning to this shit. If they think this largest studio in Europe can't tune AI balance, AI versus AI, to have better campaign experience, so we don't have 80 plus bullshit, at least have a 60 plus bullshit other times, so 6 out of 10 times the shit happens, another 8 out of 10 times. They should assign some kind of factor where we are starting campaign, we can add some modifiers. We can randomize bonuses for the factions, so it's a little bit different. Let's say, you know, like the Lucky Nations was mentioned some, like, let's say we tick this shit somewhere here, and, you know, Gran Pepe is all of a sudden gonna be a terrifying superpower. Meanwhile, in the Badlands, Tomb Kings all of a sudden control all Badlands and the mountains. When the fuck have you seen this? In all of my hours playing this game, nearly 7,000 hours, I have not seen this. 7 fucking thousand hours, not AFKing on the main menu. So there should be some kind of system if the devs are too lazy to tune this on their own. Cases of overtuned AI should be carefully monitored. They do have stat horse. They, you know, we send data to them, mumbo jumbo. They collect information. If they see the fucking Reichland is of, you have 60 settlements on turn 120, 9 or 10 times, in some cases, they should fucking tune this down. The problem is, you know, it almost looked like somebody noted this shit down, and then like 6 months later, you know, they're waiting for a patch. It's like, not getting proper patching process. And it's fucking crybabies complain too many times when you patch this game. It needs to go to create a backup file of 60 gigabytes and then apply it. And fucking peasants still running hard drives in the 2021, 22. And because of them, we can't have hotfixes with this series. Heck, because of this, the devs have gotten so lazy. I don't know what the fuck they were doing with the extra years on the Warhammer 3. You know, what we're seeing here is like, what the fuck are they doing for 4 years? I don't know. What the fuck were they doing for 4 years? Of course, they're working on 3 Kingdoms, throwing other shit, patching and stuff as well. We haven't even getting that much content towards the end. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing. We're getting overtuned AI, we're not getting hot fixes, we're not getting cold fixes, and we're barely getting any patches. And when we get a fucking patch, it's completely wrong stuff. And then it's gonna be another 6 months wait before we have a chance again for the things to get patched properly. The Warhammer 3 is gonna be larger than ever, and if they continue like this, prepare for the worst. Like I said, Warhammer 3, brace yourselves, guys. Brace yourselves. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't get fucking hyped. Brace your fucking selves. Okay, this concludes this Jibber Jabber, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll continue Better Legion. Good night.